Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the New Health Conversation podcast. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I started the New Health Conversation a number of years ago. I think it's something we really need. And today what we're going to talk about, or every day what we talk about, is why diets are failing us. With 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, and 50% pre-diabetic, does anyone really think that it's working? And even more frightening is a new study says, study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. This is according to Johns Hopkins Medical School. They said if the current trend continues, 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese by 2030. It's getting worse. We have more diets than ever before. That's clear, more than ever. And yet we have 80%, and the numbers keep going up. They keep getting worse and worse and worse. Hello, Carrie Sandler Pottery. Sinma, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. So we're talking today about why diets are failing us, because they are. The numbers are 80% of America's overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% are pre-diabetic. And what we're doing, we have put ourselves in a box. We're listening to all these influences, and the only thing they're telling us is that the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. We're going to blow the heck out of that today. I'm going to share with you 7 new medical, what are called peer-reviewed human trial studies. There's nothing higher in medical research than that, where men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet you've ever been on. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year in any diet, lost no water weight, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Now, I'm sure you're probably questioning, you're skeptical, whatever, but we have the medical proof. I'm going to put up the website where you can go for free and actually see the medical proof. I just posted it there in the comment section for you, so you know that we're not just giving you, this is not an infomercial. This is medical research. This is a podcast. It is live. I'm the author of 4 best-selling books, including Why Diets Are Failing Us. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years, have done over 20 shows on PBS, and did over 1,500 lectures all over the world. We're bringing you, of all the influences that we see and aware of, we haven't seen anybody showing you one shred of medical proof about what they're talking about. They're giving you opinions. And the opinions, unless you think that somehow diets are working, that we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, and the latest out of Johns Hopkins Medical School, they're saying that 86% of America is going to be overweight in less than 6 years, about 5.5 years. This is a catastrophe. That means only 14% of America is not going to be overweight or obese within less than 6 years. And what do we keep doing? We keep looking for new diets. We keep putting people on diet after diet after diet. And what happens? People lose weight on every diet. It shouldn't be a shock to you. But here's the thing. The medical proof is really sound, that every person on every diet, the majority of up to 40% of what they lose is lean muscle mass. It slows down the metabolism, your ability to burn calories when you're resting. And then the other thing it does when you lose lean muscle, it also interferes with your own immune system, okay? Let me read to you from another big study. It's titled, Why You Shouldn't Count Calories. Now, keep in mind, nothing we share with you is an opinion. We don't give you opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people on social media that can give you opinions. But listen to this, why you shouldn't count calories. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. Never been proven to keep weight off long term. They go on to say what's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. That's what you're up against. You can believe whatever influencer you want, but we're trapped in this little box. The answer is not more diets, showing you ways to cut calories. It doesn't work. It's not working. No one in their right mind would think that lowering calories works long term based on all the evidence. And yet there are 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies that weren't based on calories, where men and women with, by the way, they weren't allowed to exercise. They lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year in any diet, lost no water weight, gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Now, before you go, oh my God, it's unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast on a diet. Yeah, on a diet it would be. But they've got the medical proof that men and women lost, not only didn't they lose lean muscle mass, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise and lost weight. Like I said, they lost weight in 30 days that took a year on diets. Aren't you a little bit curious? And yet you can go to that website. It's right there, the New Health Conversation. You can see the medical proof. We have nothing to hide. There's nothing to buy there. My books aren't for sale there. There's no celebrity endorsements. It's just the medical evidence, including an interview with the number one weight loss nutritionist, physiologist in the world for 38 years. He and his team have done over 150 studies. The number one expert in the world. And you listen to him and he'll tell you they will never recommend any form of traditional diet ever again, based on the science, based on these new studies. They're going to change everything. They're going to obsolete every diet you're on. So the point is, if you stay inside the box and just think that somehow another name for lowering, like paleo or keto or Mediterranean or intermittent fasting, this you don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8, nonsense, okay, with no medical proof. The medical proof is really actually proving that these diets don't work long-term, unless you think these results are great. Let's look at intermittent fasting, where you don't eat for 16 hours and eat for 8. New England Journal of Medicine, one of the biggest medical journals in the world. Now, here's what's interesting. None of these diets, whether it's paleo, keto, Mediterranean, have ever done on their own a peer-reviewed human trial study. But the medical community now is so overwhelmed with people with 80% overweight, 50% obese, and 50% pre-diabetic that they're looking at these things and saying, wait a minute, do they work? So New England Journal of Medicine did a 12-month study where half the people just were on a low-calorie diet. The other half did, intermittent fasting, right, for a year. After 12 months, the people who just lowered calories, a typical diet, lost 16 pounds, but in a year. And the people who did intermittent fasting, they only lost 12.6 pounds in a year. But then they went on in the study to say both those lowering calories to lose weight and those doing intermittent fasting lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. Yes, you can lose weight on any diet, but your diet's doing something to you. It's not doing something for you, because when you lose lean muscle mass, according to the experts, for every pound of lean muscle you lose, even if you go to the gym and you do everything right, it takes you about 12 months to regain that 1 pound of lean muscle. And the numbers are overwhelming. I mean, when Johns Hopkins Medical School is saying that by 2030, in less than 6 years, 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese. What do you think you're going to be part of the 14%, or do you think you're going to be part of the 86%? And what is the 86% made up of? People in the box, counting calories, lowering calories, diet and exercise. None of it works. When are we going to wake up? But that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is the CDC has come out and said 92.3% of the American population is metabolic unhealthy with 3 of 5 factors: overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, or high triglycerides. Do you know all 5 came down dramatically in 30 days, not 30 weeks, in these new studies? These researchers, the top people in the world, they are the ones that figured out, here's what they did. After 38 years, they figured out what didn't work. What didn't work was, number one, anything to do with counting calories, because the human body doesn't know what a calorie is. And even Harvard Medical School said, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not just antiquated, it's just wrong. That's Harvard Medical School. They go on to say, instead of counting calories, we need to emphasize what's in the calorie. Well, the translation really is, what you're doing when you're going on a diet has nothing to do with what you've been told. What you're basically doing is you're lowering the quantity of food you're consuming. And when you do that, what they don't tell you is you're lowering the amount of nutrition. And because starting with the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, don't work on doesn't even know what a calorie is. They work on nutrition. So the body has sort of, let's call it a floor or a horizon. That's the minimum amount of nutrition that you need on a daily basis to run the brain, the kidney, all these organs. Well, the brain is pretty damn smart when it realizes there's not enough fuel because you've lowered the quantity of the food. And just an aside, the food in this country is becoming more and more nutritionally bankrupt. We have tremendous amounts of calories with less and less and less nutrition. You can look at the studies, it's clear. They estimate an orange from 30 years ago today to equal the nutrition of 1 orange. You got to eat about 6 oranges. They did a study on spinach, iron levels in spinach. Cornell University, from 1953 to today, they say the iron levels in spinach have decreased, you ready for this, by 4,300%. But it's Brussels sprouts, it's broccoli, across the board. The nutritional what used to be in food is diminishing, okay? So now imagine, even when you're eating healthy, you're already in a diminished state, but now you go on a diet, you lower the amount of food, well, now you're lowering the amount of the nutrition that's already insufficient. The researchers knew this. So what did they do? They said, okay, for 38 years and 150 different studies, that's what we did. We have to change. So they had a theory. They said, okay, is it possible? They didn't know for sure. Could we lower the amount of food, but not lower the amount of nutrition? By doing what? By limiting the amount of food that people in the studies consumed from the grocery store, including organic food. So they had them consume only 40% of their food from the grocery store. The other 60% came from 5, let's call them foods, dense nutrition foods that made up what the researchers call the world's most perfect food. Well, what's involved in that? How did that work, okay? Well, let's talk about what we now know. What are we so deficient in? Why is our food so nutritionally bankrupt? Because one of the things you need the most is what are called trace ionic minerals. And I'm not talking about iron, calcium, magnesium. Yeah, you need those. But trace minerals are things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and molybdenum, okay? We need 70. In the best organic you can buy today, you're going to get 15 to 20 minerals out of 70. Well, the researchers found a source. Well, they didn't find it, but some other people had found a source that had all 70 minerals. So now on the world's most perfect meal, they had a source with all 70 minerals, right? Fact finder, I'm giving you the answer right now. I'm sorry, but calories do matter. It also depends on quality. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what the researchers learned, okay? To eat healthy, sustainability. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you. Look, here's the point. It's the first time in history where there's 7 peer-reviewed human trial medical studies on this major breakthrough. Well, you tell me. I mean, the medical research proved men and women with no exercise women lost a whole dress size in the first 7 days. Guys lost 2, 4, 6 inches off their waist. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet with no loss of water. And instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle, lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides. They lowered hunger by 41% in 30 days. And in 8 weeks, they shrank the belly or the visceral fat by 33%. I'm trying to explain to you, how did they do it? So number one, they found a source with all 70 minerals. The second thing, they made up the world's most perfect meal, which you can't get at your local grocery store, okay? Or even if you do organic, right? I mean, 200 studies in organic where they compared organic to regular food nutritionally. It was a little better nutritionally. That sounds good. But the main reason to eat it was less polluted. I do organic for that reason, not because it's more nutritionally that much better than regular food, right? So the second thing that the researchers knew is that the building blocks of life for the human body are called amino acids, okay? There are 9 that are essential. You have to get them from your diet, and 11 that are non-essential, all right? So you're told by these influences, or maybe you think this, I'm going to ingest 120 grams of protein, and I'm getting, that sounds good. Actually, in Europe, they completely debunk that. The only thing that matters to your body, believe it or not, the protein itself from an animal or a plant is completely useless to us. All protein is like the shell of a walnut. It's inside the protein where these 20 amino acids reside. So when we eat protein, the body breaks open the protein and extracts the amino acids. But it's really inefficient. To give you an idea, plant-based protein absorption is only 10% out of 100. All animals, steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., are 30%. Okay? So this idea you're going to ingest 120 grams of protein and you're getting 120 grams, forget it. Because the protein that's not converted into amino acids is turned into a toxin. They actually have a name. They're called nitrogen catabolites, urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose that our kidneys have to get rid of. God forbid you ever had a friend on kidney dialysis. They don't want to have any protein at all. So this whole thing is upside down and wrong, okay? Now, the researchers, on the other hand, found a source of protein where the absorption of those 20 amino acids was 91%. Not 30. Not 10, 91%. That's why men and women with no exercise gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Because in order, to make muscle in your body, you need one of the essential aminos called leucine. So imagine now no exercise, but they were getting 91% of leucine in their protein. So again, back to the concept, what they were concentrating on, could we lower the quantity of the food people were consuming, but not lowering the quantity of the nutrition? So we got two items that are making up the world's most perfect food, all 70 minerals, and now a 91% of absorption of aminos. The third thing they needed, which is really important to us, is an electrolyte. You know about Gatorade and Powerade, et cetera. Way too much sugar, not even on the same planet as this electrolyte that they found and they used, again, as part of the world's most perfect meal. The fourth thing they did, they got these nutrients, actually from Mongolia and Manchuria, called adaptogens. Now, I never heard of adaptogens, okay? Well, what do? They massively lower stress and inflammation in the body. Again, back to the medical proof. They proved in 30 days people's inflammation came down 25%. No diet, no eating whole foods, none of this, nothing has ever shown lowering inflammation in the body, period. So now they got four of the foods, right? The 70 minerals, the 91% absorption of aminos, the electrolyte, and now the adaptogens. And the last thing they found was a food source with massive amounts of naturally occurring vitamins. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, I take a multivitamin. Yeah, well, did you know that about 85 or 90% of all the supplements, vitamins, are synthetic, made in a laboratory? If you're going to create the world's most perfect food, you don't want anything in that's artificial. So now they have the 5 foods, creating the world's most perfect meal. Now, the next thing they did was 2 completely different ways of consuming those foods. Now, remember, 40% came from the grocery store. You get a grocery list of proteins, fats, carbs, fruits, etc., along with these world's most perfect foods, right? So the first thing they did, they had people do something called protein pacing. 5 days a week. And 5 days a week, what was it like? Well, they started out their breakfast with the world's most perfect food, with what I just went over with you before. They had lunch from the grocery store, from the grocery list, dinner from the grocery list, and here's what else was different. They had them have a 4th meal after dinner, not dessert. Again, the world's most perfect meal. So they were bookending. In the morning, they gave them the world's most perfect food, and they gave them the world's most perfect food before they went to bed at night. Now, why is that important? Some of you may be doing, intermittent fasting, okay? And here's the medical proof, okay? In all the studies, that the majority of what people lose on intermittent fasting is not fat, but lean muscle, period. But the reason you want to have this world's most perfect food before you go to bed, when we go to bed every night, once we go to sleep, our body all but stops digestion. When that happens, the body automatically turns on a natural detox mechanism called autophagy, where the body's getting rid of the dead cells. It happens every night as long as you don't eat too late. So, but the problem is when you're sleeping, the body, in order to detox, takes tremendous amount of fuel, nutrients. That's why they had them have that 4th meal after dinner, okay? Then 2 days a week, they had them do something that sounds strange to you, intermittent nutritional fasting, not intermittent fasting, but nutritional fasting, okay? On those days, no food from the grocery store and just the 5 foods that make up the world's most perfect meal, but they had them do it 4 times a day, spread out over 2 or 3 hours between each of the feeding, okay? So what were the results? Now, keep in mind, and these are the top weight loss, nutritional, physiologist researchers in the world for 38 years who've done 150 studies on every diet out there. So this isn't my opinion, okay? They had a theory. And would it work? They didn't know. It had never been done before. Well, what were the results? I shared you with before. Men and women with no exercise lost as much weight in the first 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet they'd ever studied. They had people lose as much weight in 30 days as in a year of any diet with no loss of water and gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. That's the least interesting thing of what they found in the studies. Also, in 30 days, people's blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglyceride all came down dramatically just in 30 days. Also, and I spoke about this before, inflammation, which according to the medical world is the underlying cause of every disease out there, it went down by 25% in 30 days. No diet, no eating health, none of these things that I know you'll put in the chat have had any impact ever in any study. They also saw hunger in individuals come down by 41%. And in 8 weeks, people shrank their visceral, that's the fat around our organs, by 33%. Now, again, I don't want you to believe me. I really don't. okay? I'm the researcher of the researchers. But you'll notice there, yeah, you're absorbing 7 to 9% of your protein. Yeah, so what's your point? That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. That means that out of 120 grams of protein, you're getting about 12 grams, okay? So again, that's the point. You have to massively increase the quantity of what you're consuming to meet the minimum nutritional requirements. Do whatever you want to do. Go on diets. I mean, I got a study in here, Journal of the American Medical Association, where they looked at 48 different studies of every diet you can name, okay? 12 months. They named them all: paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, Jenny Craig Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Cornish diet, lose weight for your blood type. Guess what they found in 12 months? When they looked at the most amount of weight loss in any diet to the least amount of weight loss in any diet in a year, it was 10 ounces. And the total weight loss in a year was 16 pounds. And again, 40% of their weight loss was what? Lean muscle mass. Your diets are doing something to you. They're not, yeah, you might think it's doing something for you, but it's not. We know every diet studied, you're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle. You're fighting your willpower. You're trying to fight survival. The brain goes, there's not enough nutrition. It converts our muscles first into fuel. But that's so inefficient. The body slows down your metabolism. That's why you plateau on diets. That's why you come off the diet and you gain it all back. How in the heck could we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic if diets work? And then Johns Hopkins Medical School just study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. They said if the current trend continues, 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese by 2030. How can you argue that whatever the heck you're thinking about doing that you did is going to work long term? It's a complete scientific improbability. We're going to only have 14% of Americans that aren't overweight in less than 6 years. We already have 50% of Americans pre-diabetic. See, we're inside this box. But the answer was outside the box. That's what these researchers had to think outside the box and do something that nobody had ever done before. No one had even looked at this concept. But Harvard Medical School came out and said, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. That's Harvard Medical School saying we need to put the emphasis on what's in our food, not how much food we're eating. That's what the researchers did. And again, you all can do whatever you want to do. Our job at the New Health Conversation is to give you a safe place to go with the medical proof. If you go there, I've written 4 books. Here are my 4 books. No books for sale there. We're not trying to sell you books. We're trying to give you not credible, but irrefutable medical proof that this breakthrough, these researchers who published these studies in the last year, who've been looking for the silver bullet for weight loss for 38 years, they're getting calls from all over the world, from top obesity experts at Harvard and Stanford and Berkeley, Princeton, from Oxford and England and Cambridge. This is going to change the world. We now have 1 billion people worldwide clinically obese, not just overweight. And they said in the study, making obesity, wait till you hear this, the leading form of malnutrition worldwide. Exactly to the point that I've been explaining to all of you here on this podcast. What influence are you watching that's giving you one shred of medical they're giving you opinions. They show you before and after pic. Those don't mean anything. I know because for 20 years, that's what I had. Opinions, before and after pictures. The medical world, it meant zero. They wouldn't even take a look at it. But fortunately, I wrote 4 books all with medical doctors. They listened to me, but that was a pretty small audience. You could count on less than one hand. Now that's all changed. If you understand the concept of a peer-reviewed human trial study, you understand, for example, no drug ever gets approved without a peer-reviewed human trial study. Not mice, not rats, on human beings. Isn't it interesting that none of the other diet regimens, whether it's paleo or keto or Mediterranean or intermittent fasting, none of them have ever commissioned sales themselves on what they're preaching. The studies that are being done have nothing to do with them. Where these researchers, they don't sell anything. They don't work for companies. They don't have any agenda. They don't work for paleo or keto or Mediterranean. They had a theory. After 38 years, they've sure as heck figured out what didn't work. What didn't work was putting people on diets by lowering the amount of food and ignoring the nutrition. People lost weight every time. I'm not going to argue that you haven't lost or are losing weight on diets. But when we got things like you shouldn't count calories, truth is calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. Not my opinion. These are major studies saying while counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach, listen to this, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. Never. Never is like never. And then they went on to say what's even worse, 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict calories will gain back more weight than they lost. That's what's going on. That's why you have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese. We keep getting fed these new acronyms for counting calories, basically. Can anybody want to put in the chart in the chat, a diet that's not based on lowering calories? And the problem with that, of course, is the body doesn't know what a calorie is. The human body doesn't count calories. We're counting them. No, what you need to concentrate on is, someone put a great comment in there. It's not about the quantity you're consuming. It's about the quality of what you're consuming. And sadly, if you rely on even organic food in this country, it's woefully short in the nutrition that existed like 100 years ago. That's why the researchers limited people in the studies to only 40% of the food from the grocery store and the other 60% to create the world's most perfect meal. They couldn't do it with food for the United States. It didn't have enough nutrition. It didn't matter. I mean, the point is, if you're only getting, in the food you're consuming, if you're only getting 20 out of 70 minerals, meaning you're missing 50 minerals, so no matter how much you eat, you're still going to be short those 50 minerals. Does that make sense to everyone? It's kind of like, this is maybe a crazy analogy, but think about a car, okay? So let's say today you could go and buy gasoline at one station. They're charging, let's say, $4. I'm making this up. And that gallon will take you 20 miles. But down the street, they're selling gas for $5 a gallon, and you say, why are you charging $1 more? Real simple. 1 gallon of our gas will take you 100 miles. That's what the researchers proved. This is groundbreaking. For some of you on this podcast, your lives will never be the same again. I know, because we have so many people. Once you go to the website and look at the medical proof, I'd say almost 100% of the people, then what we also offer is a free personal consultation. Not somebody an 800 number, an actual coach who has done the protocol and has been trained to answer all your questions. Because we have people that want to gain weight. We work with athletes. We've worked with Olympians and NFL football players, the researchers who work with Green Berets and Navy SEALs, CrossFit people, et cetera. We have people we have people as young as 2 doing parts of this, and people in their 90s. Now, the reason we do the personal consultation with you, because, we have women, for example, that are pregnant, or maybe they're breastfeeding. Well, they can't do the whole system, okay? Now, what I'm getting to you is this. You either believe in science or you don't. If you don't believe in science, then this is the wrong podcast for you. If you want to believe these influencers, and I have nothing against them. I'm not going to disparage them. You've got medical doctors, you've got chiropractors, you have dietitians, nutritionists, you got fitness people, you got weight loss and fat loss coaches. But if any of that worked, how could 80% of America be overweight with a projection in less than 6 years that we're going to go to 86% overweight or obese? Can you justify? Why would you think any of those diets work long term? Even though maybe you went on a diet and lost 20 pounds, we have people lose, I've got a lady right now, she lost 100 pounds. She sort of gained 80 pounds of it back. They can't maintain it. It's about sustainability. You know what the researchers call the protocol they invented? R2M. What does that stand for? Race to maintenance. Because there's no point in doing this to get healthy and then give it all back by jumping back in that box and doing what you were doing before you found out about this new revolutionary breakthrough. I didn't discover it. We're just we're making it available to you to find out about. But listen, this is another thing. I understand you're skeptical. So free coaching. So if you did decide to do the program, the coach who interviews you, that would be your coach free going through it. But those 5 foods that made up the world's most perfect food, the fulfillment companies that supply those, listen to this. They give you a no questions asked, 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. What's your risk? Your risk is you're so skeptical, you don't explore this, and you continue down this road of paleo, keto, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, and whoa, that's exciting. We're going to be at 86% overweight and obese in less than 6 years, because those numbers are based on diets. They're based on all these diets. None of them are working long term. But now I'm going to share something else with you that's even more. Let's see. Kinda, did you listen to me? I explained the whole thing a minute ago. It's something too good to be true. Yeah, the problem is Travis J. Mack, something too good to be true. Here's why it's not too good to be true, Travis. When you have peer-reviewed human trial studies, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. When you're the researcher, excuse me, not me, I didn't do the research. You submit your work to these big medical journals, in this case, like well, there were 7 of them, but the Obesity Journal, Nutrition Journal, Nutrients, Frontiers in Nutrition, and the Nature Communications, which is the #1 medical journal in the world. What's interesting is they decide if they're going to publish it, those publications do not review your data. They send it out, like the Obesity Journal sends it out to world-class medical doctors and researchers who are paid to do one thing: discredit what you're claiming. That's why no drug ever gets approved without going through peer-reviewed human trial studies, not scientific studies, not a paper. So in terms of sounding too good to be true, it's already been scrutinized at the highest levels in medical research in the entire globe. These things get reviewed by people from Japan to South America to New Zealand to England, obviously in the United States, major people at like Harvard Medical School and Stanford and people like that. And their only job is to disprove. So it sounds too good to be true part gets eliminated if you have peer-reviewed human trial studies. They're what's called irrefutable evidence. Now, granted, they make mistakes sometimes on drugs. I'm not going to argue that. But at least it's the highest standard in medical research is a peer-reviewed human trial study. Isn't it interesting that none of these other diets that you're on their own have ever initiated their own peer-reviewed human trial studies? The ones that are done, and we write about in our book, they weren't done by paleo or keto or Mediterranean or Jenny Craig or what. They don't have, none of them. They're huge companies. They've never done a peer-reviewed human trial study. Why? Would you be excited if you knew that going on intermittent fasting after 12 months, you'd lose 12.6 pounds and that 40% of what you lost was lean muscle mass? Would that excite you to do it? But we have these hopes and dreams and these, fancy websites and people coming on with all these credentials with not one shred of medical evidence. That's why it's not too good to be true. And that's why we made it a point to give you a free place to go to see the medical proof. I don't want you to believe Peter Greenlaw, but the number one nutritional weight loss physiologist team, he does an interview explaining they'll never recommend any traditional diet ever again. And they don't sell anything. You got to understand, it's their research, it's their discovery that they want the world to know about. This is a really unusual situation in a positive way for all of us to maybe, pull back from DEFCON. I mean, if we're talking about obesity apocalypse by 2030 with 86% of Americans overweight or obese, the medical system, it won't handle it. We know that being obese contributes to about 61 known diseases, according to Harvard Medical School. Unless you think, any of you, that I'm fat shaming, my own mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I loved her. She was friggin' awesome. And 23 years ago, part of why I became a researcher, she called me up one day and said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I would give anything if I could just spend 24 hours thin. I said, wow, Mom, that's cool. Yeah, well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. I believe my mom dieted herself to death. A big part of my motivation is to make you aware of what's available. Right now, you're inside this box, okay? We're being told what they were told, and they're telling us that. But 550 years ago, I liken it to 550 years ago when the smartest people in the world said, what? The world's flat. Well, obviously, 86% of Americans are going to think that lowering calories on diets is the way to overcome overweight or obese. It's just not working. In life, this wasn't my thing. It takes you about 7 to 10 days to break a habit and about 30 days to reinforce it. But imagine how incentivized you would be, men or women. In 7 days, you're losing as much weight as 8 weeks of any diet. Don't you think that's going to motivate you to keep? And you know, based on the medical proof, you're not losing lean muscle, you're not losing water, and you're lowering all those metabolic factors in your body in 30 days. Now, obviously, there were people that needed to lose 100. I mean, it wasn't over in 30 days, but the emphasis, the medical data was so dramatic just in 30 days. Let's look at it that way. Over the course of, months, they had even more and more and more, success. But the studies are on the website. You can go see the studies, the breakdown of the studies, but the most important thing is this interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. Women lose a dress size typically in 7 days with no exercise. Men lose 2, 4, 6 inches off their waist in a week with no sit-ups, no crunch. The researchers didn't let anybody exercise. I know you probably think I'm some crazed person. I get it all the time. It's okay. But science doesn't care about me. It doesn't care about my tie or my glasses or anything. Science has it just is. It doesn't have an agenda. It has no prejudice. And what we're presenting to you, we're showing you, that's what we wrote about in this book, which was a huge bestseller, Why Diets Are Failing Us. But something we now know that we didn't have the conclusive evidence of, and this is and again, none of my books are for sale on my website. I don't want you to buy my books. We gave you that free website so you wouldn't have to think that, well, that's a trick because he's going to have you have to buy his book to find out. No, you don't. Everything is on the website. It's completely transparent. And if you like what you see, then you can sign up for a free consultation. But we're not holding back. You don't have to sign up for the free consultation to see everything that the proof, the medical proof, and what they did and how they did it. And the reason we do a personal consultation is we don't know anything about you. Are you old, young? Are you on any medication? Do you want to gain weight, lose weight? We have kids as young as 2. We have a guy with a heart transplant. And we're not treating, curing, or making any medical decisions for anybody, period. We're not doing that. But we are showing you, and if you want to, teaching you exactly what they did in the medical trials, including the list they created of the foods from the grocery store, and of course, these foods that created the most perfect meal in the world. That's what the researchers used. They don't sell it. They have no affiliation. They're researchers. That's important that you understand that, right? But the thing that I want to also explain to you, every one of us, including me, all have this new medical syndrome. It's called TDOS. It stands for toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, causing you to be overweight and stress. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. Now, why do you care about that? Because in medical, when you try and get a registered trademark of a medical condition, the patent office, to do their job, they search the world to find, is there anything even similar? Is anyone even saying this? Because if they grant you that little R, then from a legal standpoint of view, if someone tries to steal my intellectual property that I spent the money and the time and effort to create this, to discover this syndrome, that that's when you get the thing. So this is a really big deal. So this you may not know. We are drinking and we're breathing and we're eating chemicals. And I'm going to read to you, this is a major reason why you're gaining weight, why 80% of Americans are overweight. It's not just fast food and not exercise enough. Wait till you hear this about these chemicals. Again, not my opinion. So let's start first with the Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones in the clinical practice of endocrinology. They report the rise in the incidence in obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrialized chemicals. They call these chemicals, now we're talking about herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and flame retardants and all these chemicals that were in our modern world, right? They go on to say, obesogens, simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter the body from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastics in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones such as estrogen, blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. What are you doing about obesogens? Did you even know about obesity? See, none of what you're putting in the chat or that you know about has, before these researchers who did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, proved this protocol was assisting our own body in doing what? Removing these chemicals from us through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. And I think I explained before, every night when we go to sleep, as long as we don't eat too late, Once the body slows down digestion, the body immediately begins to detox. The body does it. It has the mechanism to do it. But it was just never set up to deal with these obesogens that we're now living with on a daily basis. Did you all see the thing on Starbucks coffee 8 weeks ago, where 1 cup of Starbucks coffee, they say it has 50 and 80,000 microplastics in every cup of coffee? What are you doing about that? There was a big study out of Australia last year where they said that all of us are eating the equivalent, okay, the equivalent of one of these per day, a credit card in plastic per day. What? Look, ladies and gentlemen, you can bury your head in the sand and you can tell me, well, I eat organic and it's 3 meals a day and I count. It's not working. And every disease statistic is exploding. Now, back to that 92% of the population that's metabolic and healthy. I mean, you have to understand that if you're overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, if you have 3 of those factors, the CDC, not me, Center for Disease Control, says you're metabolic unhealthy. 92% of us, what is going on? And the point is that in these studies, all 5 of those factors came down in 30 days, not 30 weeks. You know, there were diabetics and people with high blood pressure. Let's just concentrate on diabetics for a moment. So the diabetics and anybody that was on medication was monitored by medical doctors, not by the researchers. But in diabetes, thank goodness we have the medication. I'm not against the medication. You have things like glucophage and metformin, and now, of course, Ozempic and semaglutide and insulin to drive the blood sugar down. But all the medications, when you do that, insulin goes up. This is proven. When insulin goes up, what happens in the body? 2 things that are part of it. 1, it causes you to store fat. And number 2, it raises your cortisol, which is the stress hormone, right? In the studies, people's blood sugar came down 10 points, not 10%, 10 points. That's a huge amount in 30 days. But for the first time ever, insulin came down 41% in 30 days. No one's ever seen that. So what was the result? And this would be what could possibly help you. Their doctors, in many cases, the diabetics and those on high blood pressure, but the diabetics, they had to cut their medication by 50% in 30 days. So it's not a replacement. We're not talking about a replacement. It's in conjunction with. And I think most doctors, endocrinologists, your internist, your GP will tell you if you're on those medications that if you could lose weight, you probably need less medication. So the idea is we're working in conjunction with, not as a substitute for. Just like let's talk about the diet shots, which are what? Ozempic, semaglutide, et cetera. There's a big study in the New England Journal of Medicine on semaglutide, which is one of the GLP-1s. That's the name of the drugs they're giving you to lose weight. After 68 weeks, right in the study, you can go look it up, people lost 32 pounds in 68 weeks. That's a year and 4 months. But right in the study, it said that 40% of the weight that they lost was lean muscle mass. Exactly what I've been saying. Because again, the shot is another form of diet of lowering the amount of food you're consuming. It slows down the food as it goes through your digestive tract, so you eat less food. Same thing with something like intermittent fasting, where you only eat in 8 hours and you don't eat for 16. So the theory is you consume less food. I already explained it to you. When you consume less food, the thing you're consuming less of is nutrition. And when the body figures out you don't have enough nutrition, the brain triggers starvation, prevents you from burning fat, turns to your muscles for fuel, and slows down your metabolism. But in addition, it also interferes with your own immune system. So, darn it, my battery is, hold on just a second. Let me plug my computer in here. I don't want to, was on a roll. Sorry, okay, I'm plugged in. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the point is, I don't care what the diet is, whatever diet you're on, you're losing lean muscle mass. According to these big studies here, they said, I'll read it one more time, you shouldn't count calories. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach to weight loss. While consuming calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. What's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. See, that's the other thing about these studies that they did. They've followed the people now for 2 or 3 years, and they've been able to maintain whatever weight they lost. That's what's so significant about it. So let's see, who else? Because Chabella, you weren't here, is there a link to the peer? Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm gonna put it up here for all of you. Forgive me for just one moment. I have somebody at my door, believe it or not. I can't believe it in the middle of my podcast. Trust me, everybody hold on for a minute and I'll answer all your questions. So what's gonna change the world and sick is something's too good to be true. I talked about that. Is there a link to the peer-reviewed studies? I'm putting them up here for you so you can go there and you can see for yourself. Hold on one moment. Okay, there it is, the new health conversation. You can go there for free. I promise I'll be right back, and just give me a second. Sorry, at least you know it's live. It's not recorded, okay? I'm sorry about that. So how do you gain muscle without exercise? Chabella, let me explain that to you. So in the human body, I don't know if you heard me talk about amino acids. I'll go over that one more time. So amino acids are called the building blocks of life. There are 9 that are essential. You have to get them from your diet. One of those is called leucine. There's 20 total. So 9 are essential, 11 are non-essential, okay? So what allows you to make muscle in your body is not resistance training, lifting weights. That's important, but it's not. You won't build muscle without one of the 20 amino acids called leucine. So the problem is when you ingest protein, yes, you get all 20 amino acids, whether it's from a plant or an animal. But in Europe, they developed a test about 8 years ago where when you ingested a protein from a plant or an animal, you got all 20 amino acids. But what they measured through blood, stool, urine, and fat was what percentage from 0 to 100 of those 20 amino acids was your body able to use to make muscle. Well, in plant-based protein, the absorption is 10%. Not my opinion, this is what they found in the studies. In all meat, steak, chicken, liver, fish, so if you're thinking you're consuming protein to make muscle, you're getting 30% of all 20 amino acids, including 30% of leucine. The people in the studies who were not allowed to exercise, the researchers found one of the foods they found from around the world had a 91% absorption of amino acids, 91%. And that's how they built lean muscle with no exercise. It's right in the medical studies. You've got to understand, I'm not making anything up. I'm not giving you my opinion, okay? I'm giving you medical proof. And that's why at the website, which you can see right there, the New Health Conversation, you can see the medical proof. But more importantly, there's an interview with the #1 weight loss nutrition physiologist in the world who conducted these studies, he and his team of scientists, for 38 years over 150 diets. Everything anyone's posting here, okay, anything you're posting about any kind of diet, you're in this box. They're all saying the same thing, that the only way to lose weight is to lower calories, diet and exercise, et cetera. But we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, and Johns Hopkins Medical School has come out and said, what did they do with the study? I know it's here somewhere. That by 2030, 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese in less than 6 years. So what's the likelihood that any of these programs that are inside this box of belief that we have right now works? These researchers, they looked at all those diets for 38 years. They're world experts. They're recognized around the world as the top people. These new studies, there's 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, They're already obsoleting every diet out there. The people that go to that website, almost 100% of them, their jaws drop when they see the medical proof. No wonder you lost weight and gained it all back. Over and over, yo-yo. You've heard the term yo-yo diet. What? That's really happening because you're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle on every diet out there, and that causes you to slow down your metabolism, but it also interferes with your own immune system. So again, is your diet doing something for you, or is it doing something to you? It's doing something to you. Because when you lose lean muscle, for each pound of lean muscle, according to the experts, it takes you about 12 months to regain 1 pound, even if you go to the gym and you do everything right. Look at people in nursing homes. The skin's hanging off their bone. They've lost all their muscle mass over the course of their life. And what are they terrified of? Falling down, breaking their hip, because it can be fatal. Well, the reason for that is we all suffer from a disease starting at age 25 called sarcopenia, where you lose 1% of your lean muscle mass each year. Because why? You don't have enough absorption of, maybe you're an athlete and you're consuming huge amounts of protein to get more leucine. But the problem is, when you eat steak, chicken, liver, or fish, let's just stick on animal proteins for a moment. Yes, you're getting 30% absorption, but what about the 70% that's not absorbed? It's turned into toxic waste that the kidneys have to get rid of. They have a name. They're called nitrogen catabolites: urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose. So you're loading up on this protein, but you're also loading up your kidneys. If you've ever, God forbid, had a friend that was on kidney dialysis, they don't want to have any protein at all. But again, we're in the parameters. They told us it's a doctor, it's a chiropractor, it's a dietitian, it's a nutritionist, it's a weight and a fitness. We're going to show you how to cut 300 calories a day. Really? Ask them, what's a calorie? Because when I've done I'm not bragging, but I've done over 1,500 lectures all over the world, including in China, and spoken in medical, in hospitals, et cetera. And I would always ask, please give me the definition of a calorie. It's unbelievable how few people really know that all a calorie is the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. It's not a real thing. What the body cares about, though, is not calories, but about nutrition. That's what the researchers did. They figured this out. They had a combination where they could have people have less food by quantity, but not suffering the quality of the amount of nutrition. See, our body runs on a minimum amount of nutrition. It has to have that amount to run the organs, the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, et cetera. So when you're going on a diet and lowering the quantity of your food, you're lowering the amount of nutrition. The researchers did 150 studies. Every diet you could ever name, they looked at. Every time people lost weight. Every time people lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. And every time that people gained at least as much as they lost or more. Just like this big study right here. Why you shouldn't count calories. I mean, you either believe it or you don't. I mean, you either believe in science or you don't. It's not up to me. We're not here to convince you. We're not here to sell you. We're here to educate you. And even though you're skeptical and you might sound, oh, it sounds too good to be true, when you have peer-reviewed human trial studies, you take all that's out of the equation because it's already been reviewed by the top people in the world who only have one job, and that's if it sounds too good to be true, they're going to prove it sounded too good to be true. So to pass the gauntlet of these major medical journals that their only job is to discredit this is a huge deal for all of us. But for some of you, this podcast, you go to that website, your life may never be the same again, not because of Peter Greenlaw. It's not my research. We're bringing you the research of my 21 years of associations with some of the top medical doctors, oncologists, molecular biologists, geneticists, nutraceutical chemists, researchers, and physiologists in the world. I'm not giving you my opinion. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people on social media that'll give you an opinion. But who's giving you facts? That website is only fact. I'm going to show all of you. I'll show it. I've been talking about it. Here's the website. Show me anything on there you can buy. There's nothing to buy. It's only the medical proof. If you like what you see, only if you like what you see. See, we're not going to contact you. If you go to that website, we are not contacting you. There's no way for us to do it. But at the bottom, it says sign up for a free personal consultation. It's free. Do you know, I've had people put in the comments, how much is the free consultation? I go, oh my gosh, are we really that skeptical? Probably, with good reason. How many of you, I'd love for you to put in the chat, you've tried everything. How many of you how many of you yo-yoed? Well, if 80% are still overweight and 50% are obese, I'd say there's a lot of yo-yo going on. But the fact, it's getting worse. Do you understand? Obesity in 2018, 6 years ago, was 42%. Now it's estimated to be 50%. And I just told you that Johns Hopkins Medical School has said that by 2030, in 6 years, less than 6 years, that 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese. Do you really think any of these diets work long term? Look, this protocol called R2M, race to maintenance. The whole key is to get you to where you are going and then show you how to stay there. I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. Hello? That's what you should be striving for. What good does it do you to go on a diet? And I know a lot of good. I'm getting married. I'm going to a wedding. There's a class reunion, or more recently it was summer, whatever. But see, the problem with a diet is it's always a destination. It's a start and it's an end. I'll do it unless or until. But they're not. I mean, they're obviously not sustainable with 80% of America overweight. It's impossible. You can't. I mean, I guess you can argue whatever you want to argue, but you're having a conversation with yourself. You're not having a serious discussion with the scientists who are very concerned about what's happening. Did we learn anything in the last 5 years about how important? See, if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? Are you just thinking, oh, it's not going to happen to me, it's not going to happen to me, it's not going to happen to me? Well, you probably would be pretty shocked to find out that there are more experts now sounding the alarm about the chemicals that we're all breathing and drinking and eating. We're breathing in the fumes from the coal-fired power plants in China from 2 weeks ago, the mercury and the cadmium. But let's go to another world expert about these chemicals and what they're doing to us. Frederick von Saal, professor of biological science, University of Missouri at Columbia, has stated, obesogens are hijacking the regulatory systems that control body weight. So he's confirming what the Endocrine Society said, right? But he went on, this presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low carbohydrate, low calorie diets been forced to accommodate for this level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. I don't give you opinions. People want to come on and for some reason they want to, I don't know why they want to argue with me. I'm just basically making the research available to you. You didn't have to spend 21 years doing this, and I'm proud we wrote 4 best-selling books, and I did 20 shows on PBS, and I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America. And as I mentioned before, I've done over 1,500 lectures all over the world at universities and hospitals and things like that. And for 20 of those years, the medical community, it meant zero. Nice talking to you. Well, that's all changed in the last 12 or 14 months, where major medical doctors have now jumped on board with this. Because they're so, do you know, a major oncologist told me this a couple of weeks ago. The number one preventable cause of cancer was cigarette smoking. Do you know what it is now? Obesity. This is a worldwide pandemic. I mentioned before in a big study in the Lancet out of England, they now estimate that, and this just came out in March of this year, March 2024. They've said that 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese. They went on to say, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition worldwide. What? And they went on to say the reason most people don't understand that being underweight or being obese are both forms of malnutrition, because people aren't getting the right amount of vitamins, minerals, and the types of foods they need to sustain their body from a nutritional standpoint of view. They did a big study on obese children about 5 or 6 years ago. Those children, 25% of them were suffering from rickets and scurvy, which are diseases of malnutrition. That's why the whole calorie thing is ridiculous, out the window. Why aren't they telling you that, like Harvard said, stop counting calories? The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They're saying it's just wrong. So imagine what are we doing? I'm not criticizing you. What I'm saying is this: what if everything you've been told about diet, exercise, and nutrition was wrong? The medical evidence seems to support the fact it's wrong. So, but now you have a chance, if you choose, to see the medical proof that could change the rest of your life, or not. I swear to you, if you go to the website, we're not going to contact you. We don't do that. We don't need to do that. We rely on the medical proof. But our coaches that are trained, they'll answer all your questions. They're not there to sell you or convince you. That's not what no, that's not it. They're there to answer your questions. Because again, are you young? Are you old? Do you exercise? What have you tried before? Do you have any, are you on any medications? Like I said, we have pregnant women. We have a gentleman with a heart transplant. We have people with, that had a kidney transplant, or, especially women with no thyroid. And so many people complaining about hormones. I just told you that that's what they talked about, that the obesogens they act in a variety of ways mimicking human hormones, such as estrogen, and blocking the action of other hormones, such as testosterone, and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. See, you're with your great, how can I say it? Your ability to resist, okay? Your willpower. It can't overcome the natural tendency in the body to live and survive, especially the brain. So you're not going to fool the brain. When you lower the amount of food and lower the amount of nutrition, your brain figures it out and puts you in starvation mode and uses your muscles for fuel. Every diet, yeah, you're losing weight, but it's your lean muscle mass. So let me see, how do I lose weight? How did we lose weight then, doc? Okay. What website? What is the web address? Alien, my sides are hurting and my husband is calling me goofy. For what? Okay, I'm going to talk about Ozempic. Let me give you all we got lots of people coming on. I apologize. I get so caught up in this, I forget to look at the comments. So don't think I'm ignoring you. It's only that this is really incredible. So there's the website to go to for free. Okay, so how do we do the weight loss doc? Okay, well that's, I'm going to do it. My sides are hurting and my husband is calling me goofy. Again, know the truth. I'm not just okay. Your thoughts on Ozempic? I'll come to Ozempic next. So let's talk about how did they do it? How did men and women lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet you've ever been on? How did they lose as much weight in 30 days as in a year of dieting? They lost no water weight, and instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And in 8 weeks, they shrank the belly fat. It's called visceral fat. That's the fat around your organs. They shrank it by 33% in 8 weeks. By the way, men and women, no one allowed to exercise. Women lost a dress size in 7 days. This is not a diet. If you go to the website, you'll see before and afters that I can't post on social media or they ban me. There are people there you'll see that lost like 100 pounds with no loose skin. I know it sounds crazy, but you have nothing to lose by going there. Let me show you one last time and then I'll explain. So the website, you can see it here. So there's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. That #2, it's an explanation of exactly what they did in more detail. It's a video. #3, the actual medical studies are there. And #4, those before and after pictures, which really aren't just about weight loss. You'll see their cholesterol, their blood pressure, their A1C, their triglycerides, inflammation. You'll see all the medical proof there. So let's talk about what did they do. So these researchers who created this, it's not a company. It was a theory. It was a new way of looking at consuming food and ingesting food, right? So the researchers, after 38 years and 150 studies, figured out that every diet out there was some form of lowering the amount of food, that lowered the amount of nutrition, and people lost weight. But the weight they were losing was up to 40% lean muscle. Therefore, all the people, all the time, gained back all the weight. So the principle, let me have a little water here. The researchers set out to say, could we lower the amount of food, the quantity of food, but not impact the quality, meaning not having not enough nutrition to run the organs of the body. So what they did, they created a grocery list. 40% of the food you would get, you get a grocery list, fats, carbs, proteins, fruits, etc., from the grocery store, and the amounts of what you would consume. The second part, these researchers, and this is why it worked, for lack of a better term, and I know people want me to go give you some fast explanation. That doesn't work. They created the world's most perfect meal, or meals, I should say. And how did they do it? By focusing on what's missing in our food. Let's start with number one. The first thing they made in the meal was to overcome the deficiency of what are called trace ionic minerals. You've certainly heard of iron, calcium, magnesium, but trace minerals, there's 70 that we need. The things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and molybdenum. In the best organic you can buy today, you get 20. So in the 40% of the food people were consuming, excuse me, they were only getting 15 or 20 minerals. Well, the researchers found a source where the amount of minerals was 70. That was number one. Number two, one of the most, well, they're called the building blocks of life. Some of you maybe heard the term amino acids. A lot of people don't understand what they do or why they're so important to the human body. Well, this is why. This month, all of us will remake the lining of our stomach twice. This year, we'll make 2 new livers, and we'll turn over almost every cell in our body once every 7 years. That doesn't happen with fats. It doesn't happen with carbohydrates. And believe it or not, it doesn't happen with protein itself. But here's the dilemma. Protein is the only way you get, there are 9 essential amino acids, and there are 11 that are non-essential, total of 20. When we ingest a protein from a plant or an animal, we get all 20 aminos. But what you didn't know, the protein itself from a plant or an animal is a complete poison, a toxin to our body. They're called nitrogen catabolites. So the protein acts like the shell. When we ingest the protein, the body breaks it open, extracts all 20 amino acids. So you think, well, that's really good. But in Europe, they developed an analysis where when you ingested protein, they could tell you what percentage from 0 to 100 was absorbed, used by our body. Plant-based proteins, I'm going to make vegans mad, I always do, was 10% out of 100. 90% of a vegan protein was toxic waste that the kidneys had to get rid of, okay? All meat, steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., was 30%. The researchers found a source of protein where the absorption was 91%. That's why men and women with no exercise gain 6 to 9% lean muscle, because one of the 9 essential amino acids called leucine allows your body to make muscle, okay? So third thing they found an electrolyte, and you're familiar with like Gatorade, Powerade, nothing. Those have way too much sugar. The researchers found a source with no artificial anything, virtually no sugar at all, and that was very important. So that was now 3 of the 5. The fourth thing they did, they found these elements that come from Mongolia and Manchuria and Russia. They're called adaptogens. Now, why would you care about? Well, here's why you care. Because adaptogens have been proven to do what? Lower stress in the body. I think maybe we could lose less stress in our lives. But more importantly, they lowered inflammation. Again, back to the medical studies that you can see if you go to the website, you'll see that the researchers were shocked that inflammation came down 25% in 30 days. Now, why is that a big deal? Because now the medical community has said that inflammation is the underlying cause to every disease out there. So, and the last thing they found was a food source that had tremendous concentrations of natural vitamins. Now, I know you're going to say, hey, I take a multivitamin, et cetera. Great. But 80 to 90% of all the vitamins on the market are synthetic, made in a laboratory. So now, if you're going to have the world's most perfect food, you don't want anything artificial. You want it all naturally occurring. So let's review. What were the 5 foods? The 70 minerals, a 91% absorption of aminos, the electrolyte, the adaptogens, and these natural vitamins. So we're not done yet. Those are the ingredients. As you all know in cooking, ingredients are one thing, a recipe is everything. So they created, now remember, this is a theory. They didn't know if this was going to work. And then they invented 2 different ways for people to consume the food. One was called protein pacing. So 5 days a week, people, this was their day. They started with the world's most perfect food for breakfast, no other food. Lunch from the grocery store foods. Dinner from the grocery store foods. Oh, my tongue is not working. But they then had them have a 4th meal after dinner, not dessert, the world's most perfect food. So they started their day on a protein pacing day with the world's most perfect food. They had a regular lunch, food from the grocery store, dinner from the grocery store, and the last meal of the day, the world's most perfect meal. Then 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not intermittent fasting, not fasting, nothing to do with any of that stuff. On those days, no food from the grocery store. And what they consumed were just the world's most perfect meals, but this time 4 times a day, spread out, 2 or 3 hour intervals, something like that. Well, the results speak for themselves. Now, remember, when they did this, they didn't know what the outcome was going to be because they're not a company. They don't sell things. The researchers, they're just scientists. They're researchers. This was a theory. Well, it turned out that their theory was right. No one's ever seen, you've got to understand, nobody has ever seen results like this. They have an expression, just give us 4 days, because most men and women lose as much weight in 4 days as a month of any diet. How much would that incentivize you? And in 7 days, people lost as much weight as 8 weeks of dieting. And in 30 days, they lost as much as a year. I know you're skeptical. I know it's preposterous. And it sounds too good to be true. Go look at the medical proof. It's there. It's irrefutable medical proof, meaning it's already been reviewed by the top medical doctors and researchers in the world who only have one job: to discredit what you're claiming. That's why you won't see any of these diet nutrition companies, the supplements and CV. They'll say, oh, we have a scientific study. So that doesn't mean a damn thing, pardon my French. In the medical world, in the real world, because again, no drug can ever get approved without a peer-reviewed human trial study. And even then, sometimes they get it wrong. But they're there, thank goodness we have these safeguards. I don't think we'd want the drug companies just going with a drug that hasn't been proven to be effective and not harm us, right? So if you go to the website, which is, I promise, there's nothing to buy there. Not my books, nothing. It's just for you to see the medical proof. And then once you see that, if you want to do a free personal consultation with one of our coaches, it's completely free. They're not going to twist your arm. It's not a bait and switch. It's to go over what you want to accomplish. And they're going to ask you things like, what have you tried before? What if you want to gain weight? What if you're an athlete? Like I said, we got kids as young as 2 and people in the 90s doing this. Because the body needs nutrition for the rest of our lives. See, that's the problem with a diet. You're reducing the amount of nutrition. And it causes something in your body called catabolic metabolism. That means you're basically using, in this case, your muscles first for energy. I mean, the sad, I don't know, many of you may remember or don't remember Karen Carpenter. She was a beautiful singer. She had anorexia. And in late stage anorexia, the reason it's so dangerous, her body first ate all of her muscles, then all of her fat, and then at the end, the body, because it's got to survive. It needs where does it find the nutrition? In our organs. It started to eat her heart, and she died of a heart attack. That's why late stage anorexia is so dangerous. See, the body doesn't care about the quantity of the food; it cares about the quality. And I hope you agree with me. Don't we need to do something different? This year, right now, it's 80% overweight Americans. 50% of those are obese, and 50% of people are pre-diabetic. But Johns Hopkins Medical School, right here, study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030. Johns Hopkins Medical School says if the current trends continue, 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese by 2030. We're doing what they did 550 years ago. Look, can anybody put in the chat any diet that's not some form? I know they call it lowering calories. It's really reducing the amount of food you're consuming, but I'll humor you and say calories. Can anybody put any diet in there that's not some form of lowering calories, which is code word you're lowering nutrition? Why is this such a weird concept? Why aren't any of these influencers telling you this? They're telling you unequivocally. They all march. They're inside this box of knowledge. They're telling you what they know. But what if everything they're telling you is completely wrong? It is, even according to Harvard Medical School, going, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. That's Harvard Medical School. It's not Peter Greenlaw saying that. And then they went on to say what matters is what's in the food, not how much food you're consuming. That's what the researchers did, but they proved it. No one had ever done anything like this before. The results they've produced, never, in 38 years of research and 150 studies, they never saw anything like this. And they always did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. But believe it or not, the main reason to do this is not the weight loss. The main reason to do this is because of this medical syndrome that I introduced a lot of you to before. This is a medical syndrome, registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. You and me, every person in the world has it. It stands for toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, overweight, and stress. We're ingesting chemicals in the water and the air and the food and our lifestyle. The body, faced with this, in order to survive, to protect us, we're evolving. I read to you from they said that, simply put, the chemicals, they disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain. They're altering our hormones to cause us to store these chemicals in our fat cells. No diet touches that. You can do whatever diet you want. I'm just telling you. I'm not even telling you. Go look at the medical proof. This could change your life, as it's changed some, including my life. I believe this saved me. What part I didn't tell you, and let me say this: we're not curing, treating, making any medical diagnosis, preventing any diseases, etc. But this is my story from 21 years ago when I walk in my doctor's office for my yearly physical 21 years ago, and he comes in with my blood work and says, Peter, if you don't do something radically different today, you have an 85% chance of a heart attack within 18 months. Wow. My cholesterol was 400. My triglycerides were 300, and I was 40 pounds overweight. So he put me on diet, exercise, and a statin to lower my cholesterol. 8 weeks later, I go back for my follow-up. I've lost 8 pounds. Really good on a diet, actually. And I was exercising 7 days a week. I was on 1,500 calories a day. I was being very careful because I was pretty darn scared, as I think any of us would be, right? So a friend of mine who played professional football, because my doc said, your cholesterol only came down 15, I can't give you any more medication. So now what do you do? Well, thank goodness. Like that same day, I ran into another friend of mine who played professional football for the Oakland Raiders and introduced me to this new concept, basically, for the simple term, detoxing. So I went on it. I lost 8 pounds in 4 days. I lost 12 pounds in 9 days, 20 pounds in 18 days, 30 pounds in a month. Well, I was 40 pounds in 7 weeks. The next week, the 8th week, I was scheduled for follow-up work with my doctor. This time he comes in after my blood work, throws my chart down and says, Peter, you're trying to kill yourself? He said, what are you talking about? He said, how much statin are you taking? I said, Doc, I haven't touched that stuff in 8 weeks. He said, well, the lab made a mistake. I want to draw some blood. We need to rerun your numbers. I said, why? He said, why? He said, in 25 years of medicine, I've never seen anything like this. I said, why? Your cholesterol's gone from 400 to 120. Your triglycerides have gone from 300 to 30. You've lost 40 pounds. And your heart attack risk has dropped from 85% to 15. I said, you're not retesting. And that's what started me on my journey. And I think some of you came on late when I talked about the fact that my own mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I never knew her thin. I never knew her healthy, but I loved her. She was awesome. And 23 years ago, before I became a researcher, and one of the reasons I did, she called me up one day and said, you know, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, what's that, Mom? She said, I would give anything if I could just spend 24 hours thin. I can't even imagine what that would be like. I said, wow, Mom, that's cool. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. My mom did about every diet there was 23 years ago. She did the grapefruit diet. She did the cabbage soup diet. She did OptiFast. She did, she'd cut diets out of National Enquirer, out of Reader's Digest. She went to Weight Watchers for years. Nothing against Weight Watchers. But I really now know and think, I couldn't prove it, that my mom dieted herself to death. How many of you on this call right now are really suffering in quiet desperation? Pretty much ready to throw your hands up because you've tried, you've yo-yoed back and forth because you have completely the wrong approach that's now been proven these many years later with all these big medical studies. I mean, the one, I'll share two of the ones I talked about before. The first one, the New England Journal of Medicine, they did a 12-month study. Now, New England Journal of Medicine, the studies were not initiated by people that advocated lowering calories or intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, okay? So they had two groups of people for 12 months. One group lowered calories, the typical diet. The other one did intermittent fasting, which in the long run is lowering calories. But let's separate the two groups. In group number one, those that just lowered calories, I want to quote it correctly, in 12 months, they lost 16 pounds. The people that did intermittent fasting lost in a year, this is a year, 12.6 pounds. But they said right in the study, both those lowering calories to lose weight and those doing intermittent fasting lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. See, there's your Achilles heel to all these diets. We're not ever going to argue with you that you can't lose weight on a diet. but it's the most unhealthy way to lose weight by relying on basically lowering your food quantity and ignoring the quality of what's in the food. And if you try and do it even with foods in North America, they're so deficient or becoming so deficient that it puts you in, when you lower that food and you're ingesting food that already is nutritionally insufficient, it triggers the starvation mode in your body, and the brain immediately essentially stops you from burning fat and slows down your metabolism, your rate at which you burn calories when you're resting. It's actually called the basal metabolic rate. Why are we doing that? Because someone told us to. Look, we'd love to be able to help you. And I know what I'm fighting. I know I'm fighting the skepticism, because I try to do 2 to 3 of these podcasts a day. And what makes us unique and what separates us from everybody out there, we're the only ones showing you real medical proof. And that website, no, you don't understand. See, that's the thing. Trace minerals had drops to add to water. That's okay, but you have to understand, when they created the world's most perfect food, the minerals actually worked it in conjunction with one of the other foods that allowed that food to give you a 91% absorption of amino acids. Nothing wrong with what you're doing, but very incomplete, okay? Totally incomplete. And again, people have been doing these kind of things for the last however many years, and yet we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. So let me do this for you here. Hold on. I hope everybody is enjoying this, or that you're learning something. It's okay if you're not. I mean, it's not. This is about education. And I really believe when we're looking down the barrel of study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030, Johns Hopkins Medical School. Again, these are not my opinions. When you're hearing these influencers, they're giving you an opinion. They're not giving you any facts. With all due respect, and I don't want to disparage them, but the reality is, why aren't they giving you facts? Because they don't have any. They have opinions. They have before and after pictures. They have stories. Those don't mean anything. I know for 20 years I fought this with wonderful stories, wonderful before and afters. But the medical world meant zero, nothing. But now, like someone earlier said, sounds too good to be true. Yes. If we didn't have peer-reviewed human trial studies, it would definitely sound too good to be true. But when you have peer-reviewed human trial studies, see, whoever's saying that, what's the website? You can see it there, the New Health Conversation. I just put it. Again, this is one of my books. Don't buy my books. No, I'm not kidding you. When you go to that website, there's no books to buy. Obviously, some people figured out they can Google me and you can, but on our website, it's only the medical proof. Let me show it to all of you again, just so you don't think I'm making things up. There's the website. You'll see nothing to buy there, only the medical proof, including the medical studies and including before and afters that aren't just about weight loss, but about their medical conditions, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, A1C, triglycerides, etc. We don't need to make up things. We don't need, I don't know how else would you want me to explain it to you? When I tell you the real results, and I agree, people are saying it sounds too good to be true. I get that. But then I remember the thing that separates us from everybody else. We have 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies backing up everything I'm doing. And if you go to the website and you like what you see, including the interview with the #1 nutritional weight loss physiologist in the world for 38 years, you can then sign up for a free personal consultation. I mean, it's free with one of our coaches. They're not there to sell you or convince you. They're there to answer your questions. Who else does this for you? And the world's most perfect food, for example, those 5 foods that are by understand, the researchers, they don't have anything to do with that. They don't sell food. They're not involved in it. They're scientists. They knew that we had a catastrophe on our hands because in 38 years, they've seen the numbers go straight up, weight loss and obesity. It gets worse every year. Why would anyone think that any of these schemes you're telling me about, and I don't mean schemes, I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I'm just saying the reality is when you look at the medical evidence that every diet out there, you're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle. you have to understand how unhealthy that is. Yes, your diet's doing something to you. It's not doing something for you. I understand the outcome is you feel great about the number on the scale and you're fitting in your skinny jeans, but is that what's most important? And what sacrifice are you making in your own body, your own human physiology as a result of that? I mean, the shots, and I'm not against the shots. Don't let anybody say that. They're helping diabetics and people who are obese. But again, what's the shot doing? It's slowing down the food moving through. So again, what is it? It's a diet where you're reducing the amount of food that you're consuming in a day. The same thing with time-restricted eating, where you're cramping all your eating into 8 hours. That's not how the body works. It's a theory. But when you look at the evidence, when New England Journal of Medicine does a 12-month study on intermittent fasting and people lost 12.6 pounds in a year, and up to 40% of what they lost is lean muscle mass, what do you think? Hopefully what you think is we're in this box. What are they all telling you? Reduce calories to lose weight. Really? Then why are the statistics continuing to skyrocket? Go to Barnes & Noble and look at how many different diets there are, and weight loss programs, and fitness trainers, and weight loss coaches, and fat loss coaches, and medical doctors, and dietitians, and nutritionists. They don't have the answer. And I liken it, maybe it's a weird analogy, but if you go back like 550 years ago, maybe a little longer, I can't remember, the smartest people in the world were telling us all the same thing. Not us, we weren't around, of course, was that the world was flat. That's what we're hearing inside this box. So the researchers who were inside the box for 38 years said, wait a minute, we gotta think. I mean, I know you heard that term. We got to think outside the box. What they did was so far out of the box, they weren't even sure it would work. It was a complete 180 from everything they'd done for 38 years and they'd studied. So they concentrated on the quality of the food, not the quantity. They reduced the quantity, but they didn't reduce the quality. See, the problem is with something like putting mineral drops in water, that's okay. But that's not a complete meal. That's not where you're getting 91% of the amino acids. You're not. Where are you getting the natural vitamins from? You're not. So again, think of a meal. A meal is more than one thing. We talk about a balanced meal. Well, the nutritionists, these researchers, what they did, their most perfect meal was based on massive amounts of what? Nutrition in the least amount of food possible. And they did it in conjunction, but they only let people have 40% of their food from the grocery store because those foods have been proven to be nutritionally insufficient. So by giving people the world's most perfect meal in the morning, having a regular lunch from the grocery store and a regular dinner from the grocery store, and then a fourth meal, which was the world's most perfect food, they bookended the nutrition. So the morning meal was sustaining the body through the day in terms of the nutrition, and then the nighttime meal was sustaining us when we sleep. Look, you show me anything else on the planet where men and women literally are losing as much weight in 4 days as a month on any diet. They lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet. None of it was water weight. And instead of losing precious lean muscle mass, which is the case on every diet, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Does this make sense to all of you? Are you a little bit curious? Let's see. Less food is literally less calories. Yeah, but okay, but let me explain something to you. Calorie is not a real thing. It's just a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes. So get the word calorie out. If you want to make that argument, talk about less nutrition. That is our problem. The diets, by reducing the quantity of the food, you're reducing the amount of nutrition until now. But again, show me any diet, so less eating, so less eating, so less calories. Well, I guess we're having a circular argument here. Calories the human body has no idea what a calorie is. The only thing the body cares about is nutrition. Now, again, on all this, if it was about, okay, so let's just say it was about, okay, I'll humor you. I'll humor everybody. Let's use an analogy. If it's just about lowering the calories, let's ignore everything else. Let's say we landed on 1,500 calories a day. If it was just about the calories, just about lowering calories, we have two different diets then. Diet number one, 1,500 calories, lean chicken, fish, salads, etc. 1,500 calories. Behind door number two, diet number two, is 1,500 calories, 3 bags of M&Ms. That's the absurdity of a calorie argument. Because the body doesn't even know what a calorie is. It's just a measurement. But the body knows what nutrition is. That's what these researchers proved. That when they found food sources that had tremendous concentrations of, not calories, nutrition, that's why they put together the world's most perfect food. Go do organic. In 200 studies, they proved that organic is a little bit better nutritionally than regular food, but not a lot, because you're still missing one of the main elements, the trace ionic minerals, of which we need 70. In the best organic, you're getting 20. So that's the problem. See, when we're lowering the quantity of regular food, it's already nutritionally insufficient. The researchers, they'd used regular food and organic for 38 years in 150 different studies. Every time people ended up losing lean muscle mass. This was the first time in history where men and women who lost weight in a month, it took a year on any of these diets about lowering calories, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. So it wasn't about the calorie. It was about the nutrition in the body. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Wow, I don't know that person. Okay, let's see, what are the most nutrient foods? The researchers, well, let me clarify for everybody. The researchers, they didn't find these food sources. They found researchers who for 25 years had found these food sources around the world, from Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, from Tibet and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. These were places where, at least so far, they haven't been tainted with herbicides and pesticides, etc. And these foods had massive concentrations of nutrients, not calories. And that's what they put together to create the world's most perfect food. But that wasn't enough. They also had to come up with a completely different way of consuming those foods. So people wouldn't think, well, I can just have one meal a day. No, that doesn't work. So they created protein pacing, where people had let's see. So Alla, I'm addressing you right now, Alla. So what they did, they figured out that it was protein pacing, meaning you had to they weren't just ingesting protein, let's be clear, but they called it protein pacing, which essentially was they started the day with the world's most perfect food, right? With the 70 minerals, with the 91% absorption of amino acids, with the electrolyte, with the adaptogens that lower stress and inflammation in the body, and this massive concentration of naturally occurring vitamins. That was breakfast. Lunch was from the grocery store. Dinner was from the grocery store. And then the last meal of the day was, again, the world's most perfect food. So the key was not just what they were ingesting, it was when they were ingesting, how much they were like regular foods. They gave them quantities that they had them consume, because they knew that the foods were nutritionally insufficient, but these perfect meals made up for it. That's why they had them do it in the morning to sustain them until through the day. And then they had a last meal of the day was this world's most perfect food to sustain us when we were sleeping. Look, the proof of the pudding's in the results. I mean, would you be unhappy, Ella, if you could lose as much weight in 4 days as in a month of diet? If you could lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet? Lose as much weight in a month as a year of dieting with no exercise, and losing no water and gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. You don't have to believe me. You can see all the proof on the website. I'm going to show everybody the website again. There's nothing to buy there. There's no celebrity endorsements. There's no way we will contact you. Only way we'll contact you is if you contact us. At the bottom, scroll all the way down, it says, sign up for a free personal consultation. I mean, are we crazy? Are we nuts that we're going to coach you for free? But the reason that we're so excited about it is we know it works, but we have to teach you how to consume the world's most perfect meals. Now, by the way, the fulfillment companies who supplied these food sources to the researchers, they offer you 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. You show me anything out there like that. What would it be? Who's doing that? And what other, you can't find another diet, nutrition, supplement, whatever, that have initiated their own peer-reviewed human trial studies. A peer-reviewed human trial study, you can't go higher in medicine than that. It's irrefutable evidence, not my opinion. I don't have to give you my opinion. We have you'll get to see the medical studies. They're right there. Don't let your skepticism prevent something that could change the rest of your life, or not. Obviously, it's up to you. You can do whatever you want to do. You can believe the influencers. They seem like they're pretty nice people. I see medical doctors and chiropractors, millions of followers. But what they're teaching you, sadly, is including Harvard Medical School, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They go on and say we need to concentrate on what's in the food, not how much food we're consuming. And then this other big study, the title, Why You Shouldn't Count Calories. These are not my opinions. We don't give you opinions. Listen to this. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. They go on to say what's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict calories gain back more weight than they lost. Maybe you don't think that's, but it's the yo-yo effect. You've already gone through it. It's sad. We have people who've lost 100 pounds and they gain it all back. Had people who lost 200 pounds, they gained it all back. But here's what should frighten all of us. A new study, not a new one, well, it's 2 years old, I guess. Between 2012 and 2022, the rate of type 2 diabetes has increased by 20%, according to a study in diabetes, obesity, and metabolism. Again, we don't give you opinions. We give you facts. We know right now, 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% are pre-diabetic. And then Johns Hopkins Medical School comes right out and says, study predicts obesity apocalypse. Their words, not mine, by 2030. And they're saying that if the current trend continues, 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030. So why do you think whatever diet you're on, you've heard about, you've seen on TV, why do you think they work? They don't. Now, let's talk about, some people asked me about Ozempic and about the shots. First of all, I'm not against the shots because they are helping diabetics and they're helping people that are obese. But like with everything else, right here, I have New England Journal of Medicine. Remember, we're not giving you a claim. We're reading from the medical proof. We're researchers, right? So this was a semaglutide, one of the GLP-1s, 68-week study. In 68 weeks, the average weight loss was 32 pounds in 68 weeks. And right in the study, of the 32 pounds they lost, 40% was lean muscle mass. If you had friends that were on the shot, and they come off the shot, they're gaining all their weight back. We're working with people that are on the shot now because, again, they're really frightened about losing lean muscle mass. So we're working in conjunction with, not a replacement for. Although in our world, I mean, the people in these studies, they lost 16 pounds in 30 days, not 32 pounds in 68 weeks. I mean, that's the problem with this. It does sound too good to be true. But what do you want me to hold back? Do you not want me to discuss what's in the medical, in the 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies? Let's see. No, that doesn't work. No, LCO, no, nothing what you're talking about. It's not, no, it's completely different. That's why we encourage you to go to the website, look at the medical proof, and then sign up for a free personal consultation with one of our coaches so they can go over all that with you. Are people losing 30 pounds in 30 days? Yes, that's for sure. In the studies, it was 16 pounds in a month. But there were people that lost a lot more than that because we had people, depends how much weight you want to lose. I mean, we had people that, needed to lose, 150 pounds, but there were people that only lost 10 pounds and it was all across the board. But you have the medical proof. So again, you're all giving me, I appreciate it, you're giving me opinions, but none of it's based on facts until now. So let's see. How do you lose? Okay. How do we get this most perfect food? Again, Debs, go to the website. First, look at the medical proof. Don't waste your time unless you're willing to do that. Then sign up for a free personal consultation. That coach who has done the protocol, has been trained to answer your questions, will be your coach for free over the course of the 30 days. You get a grocery. What we're doing is replicating exactly what they did in the medical trials, human trials, by the way. Why would we do anything other than that? So you get the grocery list that you can take to the grocery store. You get, actually, it's called the Blueprints of Success. You can see it on the website. It's a 20-minute video showing you really in detail what they did. And then the world's most perfect foods, those 5 food sources that you would purchase, okay? The people, the fulfillment companies who found these foods that you can't buy in your grocery store, they give you, listen to this, a 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days, no questions asked. They'll even pay return shipping. The researchers had nothing to do with that. They don't get a commission from the grocery store, and they have no impact from all they did, they had a theory. And the theory, so because our box for all of us was what? The only way to lose weight is to lower calories, okay? Well, maybe you think it works if we got 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, and 50% pre-diabetic. And Johns Hopkins Medical School saying by obesity apocalypse by 2030, where 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese. Maybe you think that's, again, in the box, lowering calories. Because no one can show me a diet that's not some form. But here's the thing that makes me nuts. It has nothing to do with lowering calories, because the human body doesn't even know what a calorie is. It has everything to do with lowering the nutrition. So again, back to the foods. You have no risk. What is your risk? If it doesn't work, you get all your money back. Well, obviously not the money from the grocery store. But the reason that they were willing to do that, the fulfillment company, not me, I have nothing to do with that, is because they knew they had the medical proof that this was going to change the world. And with a market of 80% of America overweight, obviously there are lots of people that are desperately searching for a solution. That's what we're offering you. We're giving you answers, but not just opinions. We're giving you medical proof. It's right there on that website. Let me put it up there again. I just saw somebody else asking me. Hold on, everybody. Sometimes it's just hard for me to post. I don't know why. So Deb, listen, for all of you, here we go. Hold on. Okay, I put the website in twice. No spaces, the New Health Conversation. I founded it. Do you all think, do we need the New Health Conversation with, according to Johns Hopkins Medical School, obesity apocalypse by 2030? What are we going to do when 86% of America's overweight or obese? You think the medical system, you understand now we already have an insulin shortage? And I just read to you from this new study that said between 2012 and 2022, the rate of type 2 diabetes has increased by 20%, according to a study in diabetes, obesity, and metabolism. Again, we don't give you opinions. We give you facts. I've spent 21 years at this, all right? I've written 4 best-selling books with medical doctors, and I don't tell you that to impress you, but I want to impress upon you. I'm the researcher of the researchers. It's not my research. But the New Health Conversation is devoted to making the world aware of outside the box, way outside the box. And the protocol is called R2M. What does it stand for? Race to maintenance. Because the key is not a question, can we get the weight off you if it's weight loss is part? What if you want to gain weight? But then the key and the downfall of every diet, other than the fact it's really unhealthy to go on a diet because you're mostly losing lean muscle mass, which slows your metabolism down and interferes with your own immune system. This is sustainable. I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. We know what we're doing. You're not an experiment. But also, the reason you need a coach, this is not in the box you're used to. This isn't like 3 recipes to lose weight, 10,000 steps, make a list. I mean, you can do that stuff if you want, but it doesn't work. It doesn't. I mean, it's not sustainable. I didn't invent the concept yo-yo dieting. But we know that's what's going on. I mean, I'm just so excited and blessed that I get to do this. I shared with some of you before about my own mom, who was morbidly obese my whole life, and I loved her. She was wonderful. She was, well, anyway, 23 years ago, she called me up and said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? And she said, God, I'd give anything to just spend a day thin. I said, Mom, that's great. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. My mom did about every diet you could imagine 23 years ago. Because we have so many, go to Barnes & Noble now to make your head spin, how many diets out there. And again, I just keep coming back, and I know I'm repeating myself. How is it possible? If any of these diets work, could we be going to 86% overweight and obese in 2030 in less than 6 years? It's almost 2025. And I know people come on, and look, I don't know any other way to do this except to show you the irrefutable medical proof. What should I not tell you? Should I not tell you? Well, you won't believe how much weight they lost in 30 days, and they lost. You know what I'm saying? I'm not making a claim. I'm sharing with you exactly what's in the studies that you can go and see for yourself. There's actually a link. You can click on the studies. It takes you to the Obesity Journal or Frontiers in Nutrition or that slipped out of my mind right now. The number one medical journal in the world is Nature Communications. Nature Communications. It's the biggest medical journal in the world. But in that study, this is interesting maybe for some of you, this is my most recent book I wrote called Your Third Brain. I wrote it with the top oncologist in the world, who's also a molecular biologist, who also has worked with 2 men who won the Nobel Prize in medicine. And to give you an idea, in a lifetime, most researchers or medical doctors, they want to get published in these big medical journals, and they'll do 20, 30 papers in a lifetime. He, my colleague, has had 237 papers published in the biggest medical journals in the world, and 2 of his papers are in the top 10% of all medical papers ever done. That's why I'm not the expert. I don't want anyone to think that, but I became an expert on the experts. So a lot of what he really taught me about proteins and about cancer, and that's another sad story. I don't mean to be telling you sad stories, but my younger brother in 2010 was diagnosed with kidney cancer. He was 6'4", and when he died, he weighed 112 pounds. I saw him waste away to nothing. And the one thing that my colleague, when we wrote this book, that he taught me after my brother died, that in cancer, one of the worst things that can happen is people lose weight because they lose primarily lean muscle mass. And when you lose lean muscle mass, you slow your metabolism down. And I've already explained to you on every diet out there, you're losing lean muscle mass, and not your metabolism, sorry, your immune system. It interferes with your immune system. See, this is not a diet. This is a lifestyle. It would make no sense to do this. I mean, I've had people, that have had incredible results, life-changing, and say, do I have to do this for the rest of my life? Well, let me ask you something. If we now know, according to the top researchers in the world, they feel they've created the world's most perfect meal, when you get to maintenance, even if you did it once a day, why wouldn't you? Because there's no supplement, no other nutrition you can take that's doing what you're doing for you, not to you, what this is doing. It's that simple. Maintenance is that simple. So you're not doing, 5 days a week of, you can if you want. You can do a perfect meal in the morning, a lunch, a dinner, and a perfect meal at night. But even if you do one a day, it's enough to maintain you. And then maybe once every 3-4 months, do another 48-hour intermittent nutritional fasting. Remember, this is once you get to your goal. As a matter of fact, we have a whole section on maintenance because it makes no sense to go to yo-yo. We don't want you yo-yoing. But I think you'll be shocked at the other benefits, like your moods, like your stress levels. Well, we already talked about inflammation. It's not about the number on the scale as much as about, impacting your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your triglycerides, and inflammation coming down 25% in 30 days. So, really, Blake? Okay, Blake, let's do this. I don't normally get excited. What's the misinformation, Blake? It proves to me you don't understand what a peer-reviewed human trial study is. You would never make a statement like that. That is total and utter nonsense in the medical world. I'm peddling misinformation. These studies are analyzed by the top medical doctors and researchers in the entire world. None of it's my opinion. So your statement is backed up by what? What's it backed up by? Because I'm only quoting peer-reviewed human trial medical studies. Now, maybe it doesn't suit your opinion or your agenda. That's cool. You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to the facts. The facts are that diets are failing us, with 86% of America in less than 6 years going to be overweight or obese. You think what we're doing is working? What's your solution, Blake? I'd really like to know what it is. Are you one of the top medical doctors in the world? Are you one of the top nutritional researchers in the world? Are you one of the top whatever in the world? Because if you're not, then your opinion is like my opinion means nothing. I'm not giving people my opinion. So when you say I'm peddling misinformation, I'd like to know what the misinformation is. I'm only reading from the actual medical studies. That's as we do in our books. How many books have you written, Blake? I've written 4 bestsellers. I've appeared 20 times on PBS. I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America. You think you get on those shows if you're peddling misinformation? It's okay. Well, the point is, yeah. So Blake, again, I'd love a response. Tell me about the misinformation. See, all of you, this is what we're facing. He's in the box. He believes that what everybody believes, that the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. I'm assuming, but I'd love to hear you give me a response. It's complete nonsense. I mean, you're discrediting the highest level of medical intervention or medical investigation in the world. Not me. I love how people love to take me on. I guess it's that makes them feel good. But it doesn't hold any weight in the medical world. Science doesn't care about me, doesn't care about my opinion. Science only cares about science. It's the real thing. And again, I would say, based on the evidence, if you just look at science and the evidence, if 86% of America's overweight in less than 5 years, overweight and obese, what are we going to do? Put people on diets, lowering calories? Do you all get this? Anyway, let's see. I want to make sure I get to any of the comments before we close out this. I want to make sure that, hold on, everybody. Okay, let's see. I'm still not eating poison. That's why I eat organic. Good, but organic, exactly, no nickname. That's exactly why you should eat organic. Okay, the man is telling the truth. I lost 30 pounds. DNA, let's see, different foods of different times of the year. No nickname, I already went over that. How do you lose 30 pounds? I did that. How do we get the most? What are the most preferred food? Oh, hi, Peter, I'm here to support you. Thank you very much. That's nice. What's the website? You can see it there, Debs. Go the New Health Conversation. Okay. Okay, so apparently my good buddy here, the guy is peddling misinformation, Mr. Blake. So I guess you don't have a response. So we'll just conveniently see you later, alligator. Hope you have a great day. See, people like that are part of the problem. The part of the problem is that people are holding on to these beliefs. And if I didn't have the peer-reviewed human trial studies, then for 20 years, I used to hear that. He's a snake oil salesman. He's peddling misinformation. You can't peddle misinformation in peer-reviewed human trial studies. So let's talk about, tell me more. If it's not caloric deficit, how does one lose weight? Okay, so let's start right there with Astrid, is that it? I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. So let's deal with the first big misconception. The first big misconception is counting calories. First of all, the human body has no idea what a calorie is. All a calorie is a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. So let's just change the definition just so we can have a constructive conversation. What's really going on all these diets is you're lowering the amount of food you're consuming, okay? And the most critical part of that is what they're not telling you is you're lowering the amount of nutrition your body's getting. So our body has a minimum amount of nutrition to run, well, starting with the brain, but the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, et cetera. You stop me at any point, put a comment if you don't understand, or you can disagree with me too, it's fine, okay? But this is definitely live, and I'm the researcher who wrote 4 best-selling books with some of the top medical doctors in the world, and nutritional researchers, geneticists, et cetera. So everything I'm sharing with you is from medical proof, okay? Now, what happens when you go on a diet, you're lowering that minimum amount of nutrition. It has nothing to do with the quantity of food. It has to do with the quality of food. Let me support that by, here's Harvard Medical School saying, stop counting calories. This is Harvard Medical School I'm quoting from. Stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They say what matters is not how much food you're consuming, but what's in the food. Okay, so that's how I'm going to explain to you why this is so different. So the researchers who came up with this was a theory initially. They had done 38 years of research, 150 different diets. They're the top nutritional researchers, diet and physiologists, researchers in the entire world, okay? So what they recognized was in all those diets, people lost weight. You would call it lowering calories, but it has nothing to do with calories. It has to do with nutrition. When you drop below that minimum the body needs, the brain knows there's not enough fuel. It freaks out, prevents you from burning fat, and immediately turns to your muscles for fuel. And that's not even bad enough. Then 2 of the most unhealthy things you're doing to yourself on all these diets is once you begin to lose lean muscle mass, the body has to. It doesn't have a choice. Slows down your metabolism. You can't burn as many calories. You plateau on the diet, then you come off the diet, you gain everything back. But the other thing it's doing to you, not for you, is also impeding your own immune system, okay? By losing lean muscle mass, right? So the researchers knew that. So what did they do? They said, okay, we're going to come up with a new theory. Can we lower the amount of food people are consuming, but not lower the amount of nutrition? So here's how they did it. They limited people to only 40% of the food they consumed from like the grocery store, okay? The rest of the food that they consumed was from there are 5 foods that they located from around the world. I just have to plug my phone in. Just give me 1 second here so it doesn't die. Whoops. Hold on 1 second. I promise I'll explain this to you in a moment. Okay, so what they did was they were in a position that they knew of food sources that researchers had found from around the world, from Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, from Tibet and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, that represented massive amounts of nutrition, not massive amounts of food. So what they did, they created the world's most perfect meal, okay, with 5 of these foods that represented, see, the problem with our food in this country, just to let you know, is it's becoming more and more nutritionally deficient. Okay, so we're consuming all these let's say calories. It's not calories. Just say quantity of food, but not with very little nutrition. Okay, now, so what are the things we're the most deficient in? Okay, to let you know, number 1 are what are called ultra trace ionic minerals, not iron, calcium, magnesium, but things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and selenium and molybdenum. We need 70. In the best organic food you can buy today, you get 15 to 20 minerals out of 70. So that was the first thing to make the world's most perfect food. The researchers found the source that had all 70 minerals. Number 2, the other thing that's critical in order to make the world's why calories don't matter is the other thing we need in the body are amino acids. There are 9 that are essential. We have to get them from our diet. 11 that are called non-essential. There's 20 total. We get amino acids inside of a protein. But here's the big misconception, the big disconnect in the marketplace. They're telling you to lose weight, you need like 120 grams of protein. You're assuming you're getting 120 grams of protein. Nothing could be farther from the truth. In Europe, they developed a test about 8 years ago where they could measure when you ingested a protein, yes, you got all 20 amino acids, but the absorption was all that the body cared about. Like it didn't care that it had all 20, what percentage by quantity were they getting? Well, for example, in plant-based proteins, they were getting 10% absorption. In all meats, steak, chicken, liver, fish, they were getting 30%. They found a source where the absorption of the amino acids was 91%. 3, they found an electrolyte. Electrolytes are very important to us, not Gatorade or Powerade or whatever. Those are too much sugar, etc. They found one with no artificial anything and very little sugar. The 4th thing they found these elements in Manchuria. They didn't, but they came from Mongolia and Manchuria in Russia, that these are called adaptogens. And what do? They massively lower stress and inflammation in the body. Again, back to the medical style trials, in 30 days, people's inflammation came down by 30% in 30 days. No diet has ever produced anything like that. The last thing that they did, they found a source of natural vitamins. Now you may say, hey, I'm taking a vitamin supplement, etc. 80 to 90% of all the supplements out there, vitamin-wise, are synthetic. They're not real. So if you're going to create the world's most perfect food, you don't want anything artificial, period. So those now are the 5 foods. So what did they do? Now they had the ingredients, but they didn't have the recipe. They created a brand new way. Remember, this is a theory. They don't work for a company. They were creating something that had never been done before. And then they created 2 new ways of consuming food. One was called protein pacing, which, and it wasn't just protein, but they called it protein pacing. For breakfast, people had the world's most perfect meal, those 5 food groups. For lunch, from the grocery store, the list that you would get. Dinner, from the grocery store, the list you would get. And actually a 4th meal after dinner, not dessert, another one of the world's most perfect foods. Why? Because the body needs fuel over the course of a day. That's why it's paced. That's why it's called protein pacing. But it's really nutritional pacing is what it really is, okay? Hopefully that makes sense to you. So 5 days a week, they did protein pacing. 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not intermittent fasting. And those days, no food from the grocery store, just these world's most perfect meals, but now 4 times a day. And what were the results? Men and women with no exercise allowed, they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. Instead of losing lean muscle or water, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle. In 30 days, people lost as much weight as anybody on any diet in a year. And in 8 weeks, they shrank the belly or the visceral fat with no exercise, no sit-ups, no crunches, by 33% in 8 weeks. So hopefully that is it's the best explanation I can do on social media. When you go to the website, I'm going to show it to all of you right now. There's nothing to buy there, but what there is there, actually, on number 2, there's a video explanation, 20 minutes long, much more detailed of what they did. You'll see the grocery list. You'll see the other things on there. Now, the other thing I want to emphasize to all of you, including any of you watching this, is to be able to go to the website, look at all the proof, and then if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free personal consultation with one of our coaches. Not somebody to bait and switch you, not somebody to try and convince you, but someone who's done the program, has been trained to answer all your questions. That's free. And if you do decide to do it, they'll coach you for free during the whole, however long you're doing this, right? But the other part that's amazing, so these world's most perfect foods, the fulfillment companies who supplied them, they give you no questions asked, 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. They'll even pay return shipping. Now, why would they be crazy enough to do it if it didn't work? And nothing's 100%. I would never say that. That would be the most ridiculous thing that anybody could ever say. But again, I would challenge all of you. Please show me. I haven't seen it. I do this all day long. I go on all the social media sites and look at all these people making the weight loss claims, et cetera. I haven't found one that has one shred of medical evidence. None. They're giving you opinions. So when the peddling of misinformation is just so absurd, it's just completely absurd. Those other people, they're peddling misinformation because they're showing you stuff that has no medical backing, no medical proof behind it. You understand that a peer-reviewed human trial study, this is the only protocol in the world with 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, these studies were not initiated, they were initiated by the researchers who don't sell anything. So it wasn't, their only agenda was, could we crack the obesity code, which they'd been looking for 38 years on 150 studies, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So you all have an amazing opportunity to really hit the reset button, hit a do-over if you want. Or you can believe people like the people making those kind of comments, or people that are on social media that I don't want to disparage, but what if everything they're telling you is wrong because it is not based on my opinion? But right here, Johns Hopkins Medical School, in 2030, 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese. That means only 14% of the American population won't be overweight or obese. Isn't that enough proof? What do we have to go? Oh, well, they actually did say that by 2048, if the current trend continues, they said all American adults will become overweight or obese. That's not enough. That's Johns Hopkins Medical School. It's not me saying that. So I'm always amused when people want to take me on. What are they really taking on? Science. So again, maybe they don't think that, if these earphones, oh, they hit the ground. Oh, that's called gravity. Oh, that's called science. Would you rather believe science, or would you rather have an opinion from someone who may mean really well, but they have no medical proof? It's just so frustrating, not even frustrating. It's just sad. Because where are we? We're in this box. And the researchers, they had to jump outside the box to do this. They're now getting calls from around the world, from the top obesity experts, from like Harvard Medical School, from Stanford, from Berkeley. It's crazy. You know what they're saying? That this protocol will obsolete all traditional diets. Do we need to do something? Or do we just keep doing, the new name, paleo, intermittent fasting, a new buzzword? But let's look at right here. Let's look at the number one diet 7 years in a row, the Mediterranean diet. Number one diet. It was not intermittent fasting. It was not paleo. It was not keto. It was not Mediterranean. It was Mediterranean. Mediterranean is the one that's been considered the number one diet 7 years in a row. The study done, not by them, 8 months. People lost 10.2 pounds, and up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. And also in the follow-up to that study, all the people, 8-9 months later, they'd gained back all their weight. You know the reality of what you've all faced. You can't tell me that you haven't yo-yoed or you're worried about yo-yoing. Okay, you're doing it unless or until. But the problem is none of it's sustainable. It isn't. All diets have a destination. Life is a journey. R2M, what the researchers call race to maintenance. That's the journey. We show you, once you've lost the weight, how to keep it off. I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. Kept it off for 21 years. That's the only thing that matters. Sustainability. And it can be as simple as you having just one of these world's most perfect meal, like in the morning, and then have 2 regular meals and live your life and whatever. The ideal would be, the world's most perfect meal in the morning and one at night. Do you know most people that go on this don't even ask me about cost yet? But when only 40% of the food you're going to buy from the grocery store and the other 60% from these, sources from around the world, most people tell me that they're either spending the same as they are now or as little as maybe $50 or $100 more a month on the most aggressive program. The one where the people lost the weight in 7 days, it took 8 weeks on diets, lost as much weight in a month as a year on every diet. Depends. And again, we have 2-year-old kids doing this and people in their 90s. We have athletes. The researchers that work with Navy SEALs and Green Berets and marathoners and CrossFit people and triathletes, et cetera. They're not against exercise, but they had to eliminate it as a factor. Otherwise, they would say, well, of course, they lost weight because they did diet and exercise. Not in this case. They even made them wear like the equivalent of a Fitbit to prove that people weren't exercising. Don't we need the new health conversation? What are we doing otherwise, right? So my point is, hopefully, Astrid, I answered your question. And then again, let me put the website for you, Astrid, or anybody else that's just joining. And there are people coming on. By the way, if people are coming on making comments, I didn't influence them in any way. These are people that have experienced, that are changing, they changed their lives. The stories are, they're almost like Ripley's Believe It or Not. I get it. But what's your risk to go to the website to look at the medical proof for free with no way we're going to contact you? Only way we'll contact you is if you contact us. Does that make any sense to any of you? So I'd love for you to put more comments in here. Best program on the planet, King Grayson. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, Astrid. Yes, you did. Great explanations. Thank you, sir. No, you don't have to call me sir. Look, Astrid, the people that are now part of this movement, that's what it is, the new health conversation. Many of them, based on their own results, wanted to become coaches to help other people because obviously they had a coach, you know, et cetera. I mean, our limitation is we won't let anybody do it unless they get a coach. That wouldn't be fair to you. So this is not a pig in a poke. And again, we have nothing. We're not the suppliers of the world's most perfect meal, right? But those people, they're willing to give you 100% money back guarantee. The least we can do is coach you through it. It's changed my life, and it's changed the life of hundreds of thousands of people over the last, 21 years. And I'll be honest with you, for 20 of those years, the person, I'm peddling misinformation, well, they maybe could have said that up until a year and a half ago when these peer-reviewed medical studies came out, that, let me explain it again for some of the new people. So a peer-reviewed human trial medical study, well, first of all, it's done on human beings. It's not on mice. It's not on rats. And what they do, you do your study, okay? And you gather all your data. Then you submit it to, let's talk about Nature Communications is the #1 journal in the world, okay? #1. They're so exclusive that out of 100 people wanting to get published, see, it's not like you do your experiment, you give it to the medical, and then they publish it. That's not how it works. First thing they do, they have a committee that looks at your research to determine if it's interesting enough for them to publish it. They, in this case, like Nature Communications, they don't do the analysis. They send it out to other world-class experts, medical doctors and researchers, who their only job, they're getting paid to discredit what you're claiming. That's why you won't see any of these, whether it's, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, Cornish, zone diet, ever submitting to peer-reviewed human trial studies. Because if they run your experiments and the outcome is not good, they'll publish the bad outcome. That's why drugs get rejected, right? I mean, thank goodness we have that safeguard. And sometimes they get it wrong, but look, it's the highest level we can go in scientific investigation is a peer-reviewed human trial study. We got 7 of them. 7. And you can see the majority of them on the website. And I'm going to show everybody the website one more time. There's nothing to buy there. So what would we be peddling? None of my books are there. I mean, you can't accuse me of I don't want you to buy my books, okay? I know people want to see the cover, but that's not what we're doing. It just makes me laugh because it's just that's where we are in this world today. I mean, if people think that the Lancet, which is one of the biggest medical journals in the world, they did this study, it was just published in March of 2024, a few months ago. They're saying 1 billion people worldwide are now clinically obese, not just overweight. And they said, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition in the entire world. How could that be misinformation? I'm quoting from the study. It's like they're saying like I made stuff up. I don't have to make stuff up. Like I said, you have all these other influences. Had any of them ever showed you one shred of medical evidence? Do any of them offer you a free website with the medical proof? And then you get to do a free consultation. And then does their program offer you 100% money back guarantee? Like I said, I don't know any other way to do this except to be completely transparent and give you the opportunity to see for the first time ever on diets, nutrition, medical proof. Because, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. That's a given. Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass That was the least important part of the studies. They also lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides in 30 days. And then also lowered inflammation by 25% in 30 days. Those are medical facts. That's not made up stuff. Let's see. So would anybody else like to put any comments in there or questions? Because I'm here to answer that for all of you. I guess the best thing that I can do for all of you is to, let me ask you a question, okay? This is irrefutable evidence. So why in the world would you go on a diet and it would take you 8 weeks to lose as much weight as you could lose in 7 days? And by the way, women lose about a dress size in 7 days. Men lose 2 to 6 inches off their waist in 7 days. But I'm just being curious. If you have irrefutable, unshakable proof that this is safe and that you can do it in basically, an eighth or a tenth of the time, why wouldn't you at least be curious? Doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean you can't be skeptical. But who else is offering you this? Who else is willing to be that transparent? To give you a free medical website with all the evidence, not a scientific study, not a clinical study, but a peer-reviewed human trial study. There's nothing higher in medicine. And it's free to go there. Are you willing to take the chance? Or let me phrase it differently. Okay. If we're looking down the barrel of study predicts obesity apocalypse by 2030, according to Johns Hopkins Medical School, where 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese by in less than 6 years, 2030, what's your solution? And I'm not trying to be difficult. I really would like to know, what do you think you can do to not be part of that 86% that's going to be overweight or obese? Don't you want to be part of the 14%? But we need to grow the 14% and decrease the 86%. But the problem is we're inside this box that's what? Telling us the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. It just, how can that be, how could that be true? If any of these diets worked, why would the numbers keep increasing every year? Are you just like, I don't want to hear it, because you've maybe given up, or because you've tried these things, or because you think this is too good to be true? It's not too good to be true. Is there anyone? Where can I find the paste? I don't know what the paste means. You can find everything you want to know at this free website. Okay, let me put it up there for you. I don't know what you're talking about with the paste. You have to be clearer. Okay. Where can I find the paste? It's not a paste. I don't know what you're referring to, Maneka. But that website has the medical proof, and also then if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free consultation. Any of you, it's free. There's no gimmicks, no tricks. They're not there to twist your arm, bait and switch, any of that nonsense stuff. We don't need to do that. But how many of you, for some of the people that have just come on lately, here's the main reason why you want to do this, because every one of us, you and me and everybody in the world, has this medical syndrome called TDOS. T is for toxicity, D is for deficiency, O is for overweight, S is for stress. This is a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office. So back to my good friend that says, I'm peddling misinformation. Well, if you know about the U.S. Patent Office, when you try to get a registered trademark, they literally search the entire world to find out if there's anything even similar to what your discovery is. Because they won't grant you that registered trademark if there's anything even similar. It costs a lot of money and takes a long time. So if it was misinformation, you wouldn't get a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office. See, I just go on facts. I don't go on emotions or opinions or whatever. I mean, I could, and sometimes I do get, agitated, I guess. But TDOS is a horrible revelation that we only have known about really since 2005, Mount Sinai Medical School in New York. Now, these chemicals, and maybe I'm repeating this for some of you, I want some of the new people to understand nothing I'm giving you is my opinion about these chemicals. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to the research on hormones and clinical practice of endocrinology, reports that the rise in the incidence in obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrialized chemicals. That's they're the biggest organization devoted to your hormones, to what's going on inside your body. I don't want you to believe me, but then they go on to say, wow. They go on to say that industrial chemicals are playing a role in the generation of obesity. And they're linked to the epidemic. They go on to say these chemicals, which they gave them a name, they call them obesogens, like in obesity, right? They said, simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They are in our body from a variety of natural compounds found in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastic and food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones such as estrogen, blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, and altering the function of our genes to reprogram us to gain weight. What are you doing about obesogens? Because no diet out there until now, this is not a diet. The researchers, and one of their big goals was, could they help the body to get rid of these chemicals that we now know we're storing in our fat, the visceral fat. That's the fat around your organs. The outer layer of your fat's called adipose or subcutaneous fat. It's a fancy name for it. Well, they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, and what did they prove? That the body was able to begin to remove herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and flame retardants and even plastics from our body. That's the main reason to do this. The weight loss is that's a given. We don't even consider that significant. I'm serious. We all have TDOS syndrome, whether you want to believe it or not. You do, you have it. You can't be breathing, drinking, eating. Give you an idea. They did a study on, I think it was 10,000 municipal water plants around this country. Not me, but other researchers. And they found in all 10,000, anywhere between 400 and 600 toxic chemicals in the water that we're all drinking every single day. See, the water treatment plants were set up to deal with giardia and, disease. They were never set up to deal with the prescription drugs that people are flushing down the toilet, Prozac, Zoloft, Lipitor, et cetera, that we're drinking on a daily basis. There's got to be a reason, right? There has to be something other than the fact that people aren't exercising or we have too much processed food or whatever, that we're going to have 86% of America overweight in about 5.5 years, according to Johns Hopkins Medical School. I'm not here to scare you to death. I'm here to scare you to life. What I'm saying is that if we look at what's really occurring, not some, I see them come on and they got 10 million followers and they're writing on the chalkboard and they're telling you about, keto and paleo, and none of them work. And they don't have one shred of medical evidence that would prove, unless you think that when they did the big studies of 12 months, when they looked at all diets, people lost about 16 pounds in a year and 40% was lean muscle mass. Now, if you think that's good, then you should follow them. Don't follow me. But you're not following me. That's the point. I'm the researcher of the researchers. You're following their research. So when someone makes a ridiculous comment like that about the fact that I'm peddling misinformation, it's silly. It's just silly. These are the top nutritional, weight loss, and physiology researchers in the world for 38 years. They've earned the right to be recognized as that such. I'm not claiming to be that. So if I'm passing on to all of you this knowledge, what you do with it, that's up to you. It's not up to me. It's not up for me to go and convince you of anything. But aren't you a little bit curious as to how you could, with no exercise, lose as much weight in 30 days as 12 months of any diet, lose no water, and gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise? Look, I wrote the big bestseller back in 2010, Why Diets Are Failing Us. Got a lot of pushback because I was like a heretic saying that, why are we counting calories? The human body doesn't know what a calorie is. Only thing that matters to the body is nutrition. And I got excoriated in some circles for that. Well, now I got Harvard Medical School saying, stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out to lose weight is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They said we need to concentrate on what's in the food, not how much food we're consuming. I think someone wrote a book about that about 14 years ago. I'm just being, it's been a long day and I've done a lot of this today. We want to be able to help you, but we want you to feel comfortable that by going to the website, we're not going to contact you. You get to see the medical proof of everything I've shared with you today. Then the bonus is, if you like what you see, and only if you like what you see, you can go and sign up for a free personal consultation with one of our coaches. They're not there to sell you or convince you. They've done the protocol. They've been trained to answer all your questions. Or not. Or you can believe what you believe and you can stay inside the box of the only way to lose weight is to lower calories, diet and exercise, carbs. None of it works. None of it. But I don't know if you all heard the story about the crabs. You know, you put a bunch of crabs in a pot and one of them starts to make their way out and then one of the other crabs pulls it back down. That's where we are. They're all singing the same tune with no medical proof and with the obvious data suggests that diets don't work. And the weight you're losing is really unhealthy. And yet you have an opportunity to see for the first time ever real medical proof of they cracked the code on obesity. Not me, these researchers who don't sell anything. But they put together the protocol because it was theoretical at the time. So, yeah, exactly, Jules. Yeah. Okay, the website, I'm giving it to you right now. Hold on, everybody. So the point is, Jules, you're proving my point, okay? It's not about, it has nothing to do, don't even mention the word calorie to me, it's nonsense. But the food itself, the food you ate in Italy was nutritionally dense. So even though, but the other thing you need to understand, all of you, is that even if she ate the same amount of food she ate in this country, because of the density of the nutrition, the body much more efficiently uses that food to fuel us. Here's a good example. You could go today and I'm making this up, but let's say you paid $4 a gallon for a gallon of gas, 1 gallon. And that gallon will take you 20 miles. Well, what she did when she went to Europe, she bought a gallon of gas in Europe and it took her 100 miles. That's the concept. That's what these researchers did. It was never about the quantity of food. It was about the quality of what was in the food. It still exists today. And we're failing miserably following that advice inside that box. I love Italy, by the way, Jules. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. I've spent time in the French Riviera, down in Cannes and Nice, and I've been to Monaco, and obviously was in Rome, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, but Europe in general. But unfortunately, Jules, now the reality is this. In a huge study published in March of this year, 2024, The Lancet, they now say that 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese. So it's spreading around the world. It's not just us. It's not just in North America. And, you know, I don't know how long they're going to be able to hold out in Europe and some of the other places with the very herbicides and pesticides. Now, look, we have tremendous amounts of calories, but very little amounts of food, if that makes sense to you. Let's see. So anyway, I don't know what. Oh, Alex. Yeah, protein pacing. That's what we teach you how to do. Because it's not just, it's time intervals, it's the quantities of both the most perfect meal, but also the food from the grocery store. It's like those foods in what quantities, at what times, et cetera. So you understand why I was confused when you said paste. I went, what? I'm sorry, I thought you thought this was some kind of paste you were eating, like toothpaste or something. So anyway, hopefully that cleared that up. And you all see the website. I placed it for you twice at the bottom. So I don't know how to pronounce your name. I don't want to, Munica or Monica? M-U-N-E-C-A. I'm sorry about that. So that website, everyone, again, how many times do I have to tell you? It's free to go there. We're not going to, so if you think you're going there, we're going to contact you. We're not. The only way we'll contact you is if you go, scroll down to the bottom and fill out that form. It says sign up for a free personal consultation. We'll do our best to get to you within 24 hours. If you don't hear from us in 24 hours, then reach back out. Something was wrong. There's a limitation because unfortunately, fortunately, there's so many people now that are beginning to understand and find out about the New Health Conversation podcast because we are different. We are unique than anybody else out there. They can do whatever they want to do. I'm not going to disparage any of them. But again, if you can back up what you're claiming with peer-reviewed human trial studies, then we can have a discussion. If you don't have a peer-reviewed human trial study, then it's really just noise. It doesn't mean anything. And like I said, I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I've written 4 best-selling books. I did 20 shows on PBS. I've been interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America and did over 1,500 lectures all over the world in universities and hospitals. They even flew me to China. So me peddling misinformation, don't think that would have worked too well, And you always have critics, and you always have people that, they have their opinions. But opinions don't mean anything in the medical world. I know, because for 20 of those years, nobody in the medical world would even take a look at this until these 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies. Look, it's not a pun. What do you have to lose? Or what do you have to gain? Or do you understand this could change the rest of your life? I mean, do you really think, are you going to be part of the 14% of people in this country in less than 6 years that aren't overweight or obese? Or are you going to be part of the 86% of the people that they're projecting through Johns Hopkins Medical School that are going to be overweight or obese? If this doesn't wake us up, what does? And you know what's so amazing to me? After all this time of being kind of the canary in the coal mine, the national media is finally starting to talk about toxins, about nutritional deficiency. Really? You mean all the stuff I wrote about? Sometimes I just have to laugh because we're just so, we're so opinionated, without facts. And when we can't, and I'm not saying we can always rely on science, and they make mistakes, of course, right? But don't we have to have some kind of standard rather than a celebrity endorsement or, well, it's an athletic endorsement or, even these medical doctors and chiropractors and dietitians and nutritionists and, weight loss coaches and workout people, et cetera. I think they all mean well, but don't we need a higher standard? Don't we need something that is based on really the scientific method, scientific investigation? We wouldn't have half the wonder drugs we had today if people weren't, willing to, I don't know how many of you know the story about the polio vaccine and Jonas Salk and, when he injected himself with the dormant polio virus, who knew what was going to happen? If he hadn't done that, there could have been millions and millions of lives that would have been sacrificed. People would have died. I mean, a lot of people got polio anyway. So I look at these researchers as warriors, as champions for all of us. Because you have to understand, when they went out on a limb, when they went outside the box, they were the crab that got out of the box and went out and said, look, we just need to do something different. After 150 studies, after 38 years, they came to the conclusion that any method of lowering food to lose weight was not going to work in the long run. And they figured it out, as so many of the things in our modern life today that people figured out. From Amazon to Google to, I still don't know how GPS works. What do you mean there's a car on the side of the road up ahead? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's crazy. But I'd love any more comments. Is there anyone, I'd love for anyone to put in the chat, is there any form of diet that you really believe is going to work? What? Oh, Dr. Velasquez. Yes, welcome. Man, I haven't talked to you in a long time. I didn't know you were on TikTok. That's great. That's great. But would any of you put in the chat? Not to have a, I'm just curious because I want to know what the opinions are. And then I can tailor my podcast to address those concerns or questions or misconceptions. Because I think it's hard to argue that if Johns Hopkins Medical School is saying that 86% of America is going to be overweight in less than, well, in about 5.5 years, and I didn't even read this part to most, even more troubling, they said, by 2048, they're projecting all American adults will become overweight or obese. Well, that's because, again, if you stay in the box. Look, we all know the definition of insanity, or I think we know. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Isn't that what we're doing? I haven't had anyone ever on these put in the chat a diet that's not some form of lowering calories. Even though calorie is just a measurement, it's not a real thing. Why aren't they putting in there that a diet is really lowering the amount of food, which lowers the amount of nutrition, which puts you in starvation mode where you lose your lean muscle, slows down your metabolism, you can't burn as many calories, that's why you gain all the weight back. And it also impacts your own immune system. Did we learn anything in the last 5 years how important our immune system actually is to all of us? Look, I want to support all of you in your skepticism. I know that you're skeptical. If you're not telling the truth. But let me say this to you. Just because it wasn't invented, in other words, I know when I tell you that men and women in the medical studies with no exercise allowed lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet, lost no water, and instead of losing lean muscle mass, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. That's the least important part of the studies. What was the most important was people lowered their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their cholesterol, their triglycerides, and their weight in 30 days. Now, for those of you that don't know, inflammation has now been pegged by the medical community as the #1 underlying cause of every disease out there. And we're not treating, curing, making any medical proclamations, diagnosis. We're not doing any of that. But the medical evidence is the medical evidence. They lowered inflammation by 25% in 30 days. No diet, no nutrition, no supplement has ever done this. Now, for the medical people that might be listening, the way you measure inflammation is something called T-bars, like T like Tom, bars, B-A-R-S. And what they're measuring is what's called interleukin-1 and C-reactive protein. Those are, in medical terms, those are the biomarkers that determine inflammation in the body. Obviously, if they go up, that's a bad thing. You want them to come down. Well, they proved that they lowered interleukin-1 and C-reactive protein by 25% in 30 days. You got to understand, all these results have never been seen in 38 years of research, because be clear, the researchers who did this, they always did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. So it wasn't like this was the first time they did it. It was the first time they ever saw results that even resembled this. Like I said, in all their other studies, when people did great, they lost as much weight in 8 weeks as people on this study did in 7 days. Which one would you rather do? And it's okay that you're skeptical. But can you take a chance that I'm right? I mean, can you take the chance that I'm not right, I guess is what I should say. But it's not me being right. That's the thing that's so cool about this. It's 100% based on the medical proof. But the main reason to do this is to deal with this this TDOS syndrome, toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, overweight, and stress. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. It's one of the big reasons why 80% of America are overweight. It's not just processed food and we don't exercise enough and nutritional deficiency, but nutritional deficiency plays a huge part in this. All the experts are chiming in. Watch what's going to happen. You watch in the next few months, you're going to see more and more and more discussion about, toxins in the body and our food is nutritionally deficient. But again, they have no solution. Now they're aware of it. That's the first thing in medical research. You have to understand the magnitude of a problem, which I recognize. I was talking about these things independently: toxicity, deficiency, being overweight, and stress. But when I one day had this epiphany and said, wait a minute, I wonder if these are interacting with each other. So I called up my friend that's one of the top medical doctors in the world, and I said, look, I think I've stumbled onto something. And I told him, I said, I'm going to call it the TDOS syndrome. And I explained it to him. He says, call the patent office right now. Well, I didn't actually call him. You have to submit forms and you pay lawyers, and it's really expensive and it takes a long time. But my goodness, it's worth, because I was right. That wasn't why I did it. It was more like trying to this puzzle. How could we have more diets and more workout programs and more awareness than ever, and have every disease, obesity, weight, diabetes, every disease out of control? I read to all of you this is shocking. Between 2012 and 2022, the rate of type 2 diabetes has increased by 20%, according to a study recently published in Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism. Do you see what's going on here? Do you see that? Thank goodness we have drugs to deal. But what are we going to do when there aren't enough drugs, when there aren't enough beds, when there aren't enough doctors, there aren't enough nurses? We saw what happened in COVID. They didn't have what I said. So the best plan you could possibly have, I don't think any of us can afford to get sick. I'm being serious. It's going to get worse before it gets better unless we do something different. Well, if we're going to stay inside this box, if we're going to go with the group that's saying, hey, 550 years ago, we can hear the voices saying, oh, the world's flat, the world's flat, the world's flat. Really? There was kind of this Italian sailor guy that kind of proved the world wasn't flat. Imagine, these are the smartest people in the world. That's what they believed. That's what's going on right now. Really smart people telling you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. I'm just the researcher of the researchers. I'm observing. But I'm also being taught by these. One of my friends is the #1 geneticist in the world who discovered the gene that causes aging. I'm so blessed that I get to do this. I'm so blessed that I get to share this with all of you. My mom didn't get a do-over. I'll repeat it one more time because I know we have some new people. And my mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I never knew her thin, never knew her healthy. And 23 years ago, she called me up one day and said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I'd give anything if I could just spend one day thin. I said, wow, Mom, that's cool. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. I loved my mom. She was awesome. She was in her 60s when she died. What a tragedy. And I really believe my mother did about every diet. Well, that was available 23 years ago, from the grapefruit diet to the cabbage soup diet to OptiFast to, whatever Oprah was doing, Weight Watchers, etc. And she'd lose 20 and gain 25 back. She'd lose 25 and gain 30 back over and over and over and over again. I believe she dieted herself to death. So one of the huge motivators for me was I just got really curious, and I was fortunate enough to meet the chemist that invented this. And he said, I know I've invented something that's going to change the world, and I need someone like you to tell the world about it. And I go, well, that's really great. I said, I don't even know what a calorie is. He said, I'll teach you. And that was, almost 22 years ago. And that's why this whole thing kind of started. I don't want to bore you with all the details. But, I've written 4 best-selling books with top medical doctors, 20 shows on PBS, interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America, and did over 1,500 lectures all over the world, including in China. I never would have believed it that day when I said to him, look, I don't even know what a calorie is. I'm being totally transparent. That's why I'm the researcher of the researcher. Thank goodness, maybe for all of us, that I was neurotically curious. But he told me, he says, look, it doesn't matter that you don't know. He said, nobody will understand this. He said, and he died a couple of years ago, but he said, you know, they're going to look back 100 years from now and realize this breakthrough that I did. And sadly, he died before these peer-reviewed medical studies got published. He suspected it, but he didn't have the medical proof. So that's, you know, unfortunately, he's done a great gift for mankind, and we're making the medical proof available to you so you could maybe make a different decision in your life. Because what's your risk? You go on it, you get a free coach, that the 5 foods that come from around the world that create the world's most perfect meal, which is going to represent 60% of the food you're consuming. So it's not like you're buying the food you're buying now and then you're spending another. No, you're going to substitute 60% of the food you're consuming and buying now for these world's most perfect foods. You'll probably find out it's pretty darn economical in terms of, you know, what you're getting, you know, et cetera. So, well, not really. You don't want to stay in ketosis all of the time, okay? You want to get up to the point where you get to ketosis, but you have to understand that what they were able to do, they were able to they didn't just maintain their lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle with no exercise, okay? And that was because of the absorption of the amino acids. Well, one in particular, which is called leucine, is one of the 9 essential amino acids. So out of 20 amino acids that you get in a protein, 9 are essential, 11 are not, but one of them, leucine, is why they built lean muscle mass. But also, what you have to understand, they did not affect metabolism at all. See, that's the problem with these diets. And even when you do something like ketosis, you run the risk of slowing down your metabolism, because ultimately, without the massive amount of nutrition, your body's going to go to your muscles for fuel. That slows your metabolism down. You gain all the weight. That's why, like, the keto diet, it's not even in the same zip code as this. In the studies that were done on, I'll read it to you, in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And again, I just want you to understand, Alex, I'm not giving you my opinions. I'm giving you medical facts. So in the Journal of the American Medical Association, they did a 12-month study of 48 different studies, Alex, 48, over 7,286 people. And in the 48 studies, they analyzed pretty much every diet out there, including keto, paleo, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, the Zone diet, the Cornish diet, the Atkins diet, lose weight for your blood type, all these diets. So whether it was keto, paleo, whatever, in 12 months, just to let you know, Alex, the difference in weight loss from the most amount of weight loss on the, let's say, the most successful diet to the least amount was only 10 ounces in a year. And the weight loss after 12 months was 16 pounds, and 40% of the weight loss was lean muscle mass. So that's one of your downfalls with keto, for example. Because again, let's say you don't know about this. So let's say you're going keto. You're still relying on food that you're consuming, even on keto, that's nutritionally very, very insufficient. Okay? So for example, I talked, maybe you were on when I was talking about one of the things we're the most deficient in are what are called trace ionic minerals. Not just iron, calcium, magnesium. There's 70 of those minerals we need, okay? They're things like gold and silver and zinc and boron and beryllium and selenium and molybdenum, okay? And the best organic you're consuming on keto, et cetera, you're only getting 20 of the 70 minerals. That's just one of the shortfalls. So the whole concept behind any of these diets is if you're relying on regular food from the grocery store, it's not going to work long term. And again, Alex, how in the world, just think about it, Johns Hopkins Medical School is projecting that in less than 6 years, 86% of America is going to be overweight or obese. And by 2048, if the current trend continues, they're saying all American adults will become overweight or obese. I hope that makes sense to you, okay? We're not trying to convince people. We're not trying to trick people. We're not trying to fool people. We're showing you the medical proof that no keto, no paleo, no diet has ever produced these kind of results. And these researchers did research on keto, okay, and paleo and all these diets. They're not part of the Journal of the American Medical Association. The people who developed this, Alex, are considered the world's top weight, nutrition, and physiologists in the world for 38 years, over 150 studies. So it's their work, and they were the ones that said, whatever we're doing, it's not working. We need a different approach. And that different approach it's called R2M, race to maintenance. It's the new protocol. And for all of you that are just on, this website is totally free to go to. There's nothing to buy there. You can't buy my books on purpose. We don't want to do that. We want you to see the medical proof, and then, and only then, if you like what you see, then you can sign up for a free personal consultation. Free. But again, Alex, imagine. Yeah, Alex, you're exactly right. And again, Alex, please understand, for all of you, I'd like to think that I'm a resource, that I'm showing you things that you're not seeing in the mainstream press. Matter of fact, that's part of my bio. I didn't write it up. My PR people have said, Peter Greenlaw's, he's telling you what you'd never hear in the mainstream press. Well, guess what? You're starting to hear it now in the mainstream press. But Alex, I've been doing this for 21 years, and I really have kind of been like the canary in the coal mine, and I get a lot of pushback. I had somebody on today talking about, he's peddling misinformation. It's just laughable, because I tell you, Alex, I'm the researcher of the researchers, but I've worked with the top people in the world, everything I'm sharing with you, and we've put the new medical proof on the website. So we're backing up what we're saying with real medical proof. But yes, that's the problem, whether it's keto or you're losing up to 40% of your lean muscle. Alex, by definition, in order for the body to survive, the brain goes, we are going to find nutrition. So first it shuts down fat burning and goes and looks for nutrition, because we can't survive without nutrition. So it goes and breaks our muscles down. You've seen things, the horrible pictures from the Second World War. Those prisoners, when they found them, they were skin and bones. They had no fat. They had no muscle left. That's what happens in anorexia, in the real late stages of it. But when we go on a diet, we're doing something called catabolic metabolism. What the heck is that? We're using our muscles for fuel, and hope you don't run out of muscle, because then the next thing the body goes after is our organs. That's what happened to Karen Carpenter, the famous singer. She had severe anorexia and ended up at the end, she lost all her fat, all her muscle, and then her body, because the brain was going, I need fuel. So what did the body do? It started to eat her heart. She died of a heart attack. See, you understand, everyone, what we're doing is nuts? But it took a long time to figure out what didn't work. That's what these researchers did. Maybe some of you heard the story about Thomas Edison, when they said, well, you failed 3,000 times inventing the light bulb. He said, no, I didn't. I just figured out 3,000 ways how not to invent it. That's what these researchers did. They just got frustrated and said, wait a minute. We've done 150 studies over 38 years, thousands of people. Every diet, people lost weight. But every diet, every time, when they measured, people were losing up to 40% of their lean muscle mass, and every person gained back all their weight. So Alex, let me read to you from another study. I don't want you to believe me, but listen to what they're saying. Why you shouldn't count calories. It's not Peter Greenlaw's opinion. So peddling false information, really? I'm just reading from the study. What do you want me to do? Not you, Alex, of course, right? Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. They go on, what's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to counter restrict their calories gain back more weight than they lost. I mean, people, why are they holding on? They're just, you know what they're doing? You're defining, if you think that counting calories to lose weight works, then you're redefining the definition of insanity. Because apparently doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's wrong. You shouldn't expect a different result. Oh man, I'm laughing because, look, we really know that we can help you. We have people we have medical doctors, we got PAs, we got nurses that wanted to be coaches to help people. The coaching's free. I mean, what the heck? And then the 60% of the food you're buying. Now, obviously the food from the grocery store, they're not going to offer you 100%. Maybe they would. I don't think they will. But those fulfillment companies who supplied the food to the researchers for these studies, they're willing to they'll give you 100% money back guarantee. They'll even pay return shipping in the first 30 days. Where do you get a deal like that? See, how would I make that up? How could I make that up? Because I have enough, there's obviously a lot of people, and TikTok monitors you too. That's why I won't show you before and after pictures. You can see them on the website. Because if I showed them to you, they would ban me in 1 second, saying, no, it's not possible. They're not photoshopped. You just think they will. So again, yeah, so Alex, the muscle mass thing is really a big, big factor, et cetera, okay? But also, Alex, you've seen the people, they've lost 100, 150 pounds. They have all that loose skin, their stomachs hanging down to their ankles. And Alex, I don't know if you remember the show, was really popular, The Biggest Loser. I think it's like 8 or 9 years ago, maybe. Well, they did a follow-up study, and they published it 3 years ago. Those people, they followed them, the ones they lost 100, 150 pounds. Sadly, those people have gained back all of their weight. And when they measured their metabolism, it was slowed down by up to 30%. So even when they went back to eating, that's my point. That's why diets are failing us. They don't work come on. That's how come we have 80% of America overweight. If any of these diets worked, it wouldn't be a possibility. It would be a scientific mystery. So again, any of you, would you like to put any comments or questions? And I'm still waiting for someone to show me a diet in the comments. It's not some form of counting calories, even though it's nonsense, because the human body doesn't know what a calorie is. Why don't you just tell me you're on a diet where you're limiting the amount of food you're consuming, whether it's keto or, you're going to tell me it's carbohydrate. No. We need a balance. The researchers created the world's most perfect food. It was balanced. It wasn't just one thing. It wasn't like, and for example, let me say something. I'm not against carnivore, but it's massively lacking what's possible. See, with all of you, don't get mad at me when I say this, with all due respect to everybody on here right now, you have no idea how bad you feel until you realize how good you could feel. We see miracles every day. I don't know any other way to describe it. I mean, how excited do you think when men and women stand on the scale on the 5th morning and they call us and say, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to reweigh at... I had a major a big oncologist who I've known for 14 years that wouldn't even look at this before the medical studies. And so about a year ago when I sent her the study, she called me the next day and said, look, my husband really needs to lose weight. We want to do this. This is totally true. So what she did, on the 5th morning, she called me and she said, look, we're at the hospital. I went, oh my gosh. Said, no. She said, we went to the hospital because we really thought our scale at home was broken. Because her husband had lost as much weight in 4 days as 8-10 weeks on any diet they'd ever been on. I know it sounds like science fiction. I do this all the time. So let's see. What many treat their autoimmune diseases without farmer drugs by eating red meat. I'm not against that, Edward. What I'm saying is, imagine there is a carnivore version of this, but you're still not getting the 70 trace minerals. And in all the meat you're consuming, you're getting a 30% absorption of the 20 amino acids, the 9 essential. So imagine if you could take carnivore to a whole different level. Of course we have a carnivore version. That's one of the things that I really support. But you still need these where you're going to get 100% pure source vitamins, not from a supplement. You're not. Where you're going to get the adaptogens, which lowers stress and inflammation in your body. That's the whole point, Edward. It's in conjunction with that. But again, Edward, that's why you'd want to do a personal consultation with one of our coaches. You can put in the comment, I'm interested in the carnivore, the carnivore protocol. There's a section where you can put in whatever we want people to comment because we don't know anything about you. Now that free consultation is a Zoom. They screen share, they show you everything. We're not hiding anything. We don't need to. We have more people looking for us than we're looking for them. So I'm a huge proponent of the carnivore, just to let you know, okay? So anybody else? I love these comments because then I can, number one, it helps me on my next podcast, things I can cover that people are curious about instead of me just rambling. Hopefully I'm not rambling because this is all based on scientific proof. There's no out there. So again, Edward, I would say of all the diets, probably the carnivore is the one that we would support, maybe it's the right word, but we really, really can enhance, Because we got people doing carnivore that incorporated what we taught them, and they had like 4 or 5 times the weight loss in the same period of time. And of course, they were gaining lean muscle. Because with that, remember, you're only getting 30% of the 20 amino acids, including leucine, and leucine is what you need in order to make lean muscle. Does that make sense to you, Edward? So don't hear me say I'm against carnivore, because I'm not, okay? It's just like don't hear me say I'm against the shots. I'm not. But what's the medical reality? See, it's always, for me now, it's the medical proof that I didn't have for 20 years. So New England Journal of Medicine did a study on semaglutide, 68 weeks. And people lost in 68 weeks 32 pounds. So you can think that's good. But right in the study, you can look it up. Go to New England Journal of Medicine, semaglutide, etc. They said right in there that of the 32 pounds they lost, 40% was lean muscle mass. But that's every diet out there, okay? Because again, without an adequate supply of leucine, even if you work out, even if you do resistance training, it's very difficult to build lean muscle mass. It just is. So you're losing that precious lean muscle mass on all these diets, probably to a lesser extent on carnivore, but not really. So the thing we can hang our hats on is now we have scientific proof they've cracked the code on obesity. But it's sustainable. That's what I want to keep telling you. It's not about, hey, you do this for whatever time. We got a guy right now who's weighed 650 pounds, 32 years old, 650 pounds. Well, obviously he's not going to be done in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, whatever. But he's already lost so much weight already. He's so encouraged. I can't tell you because, again, I love TikTok. I want to play by the rules. I don't need to go outside the rules because I'm the author and researcher who did this. Everything I'm quoting is our original research of research. Let's be clear, all right? So who else would like to make a comment? So again, Alex, I would really encourage you to go. Let me put the website up there again for everybody in case you want to go there. There we go. Now, again, I want to show you, Alex, and I want to show all of you. Here's the website. There's nothing to buy on that website, so you don't have to be worried. There's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. There's the actual video explanation of what they did in more detail. There are the actual medical studies, and then there are the before and afters, which aren't just about weight loss, but also about their A1C, their cholesterol, and I don't want to take a chance in getting in trouble by giving you those numbers on, the broadcast, on the podcast. But again, are any of you out there still curious about any other questions? Yeah, Alex, I love what you said. I lost some weight on keto, but I said I was also, yeah, but even the food you're the most particular, and that's my point, Alex, you're still, in the best intentions, you're getting 20 out of 70 minerals. In your best intention, grass-fed beef, which we recommend, by the way, you're getting 30% of the aminos instead of 91%. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't create the world's most perfect food with any food you can buy in this country. Let me just say that. And yet 40% of the food they had people buy and consume was from the grocery, but that was it. No more than 40%. Because those foods would have dragged everything else down because they are nutritionally insufficient. So they had to make sure they could balance the equation. That's why they had people do the world's most perfect meal for breakfast, and then a regular lunch from the grocery store, regular dinner from the grocery, and then the fourth meal of the day. What a concept. See, it has nothing to do about the quantity. It had everything to do about the quality and with your best intentions. And I do organic, but not because it's that much more nutritious, because it's less polluted. 200 studies prove that. We're in a world of hurt, and watch what you're going to see. Watch on social media. Well, not social media, but television. They are already talking about toxins, nutritional deficiency, how the food companies have, loaded. Do you know there's a great book called Salt, Sugar, and Fat? I didn't write it, written by a brilliant researcher named Michael Moss. And the book was all about how the food companies had created something called the Bliss Point, B-L-I-S-S, Bliss Point, where they did brain scans on adults and children, giving them various combinations of salt, sugar, and fat. They could measure the reaction in the brain because, see, food is pleasurable. It stimulates something in our body called dopamine, which is a pleasure hormone. And sadly, every addiction known to man, except for cigarette smoking, is caused by low dopamine. I mean, when people get Parkinson's, what do they give them? L-Dopa. So what happens is the fact that the food manufacturers did brain scans and these different combinations, and the model that they used were cocaine addicts. Now, in case any of you don't know, Harvard Medical School came out with a study, I think it was 2 years ago, where they said that sugar is 6 times more addictive than cocaine. That may shock you. So what have we got in our food now? We have a high incidence of sugar. Why? Because it's way cheaper than nutrition. I mean, you get 70, I mean, you got to understand these foods from around the world, that it is very affordable. But you can't go down to your local store and put this together. Where are you going to get 70 minerals? Where are you going to get a 91% absorption of amino acids? Where are you going to get natural source vitamins? You're not. And again, we've always heard a balanced meal. Well, the researchers took it to a whole different level. They created a balanced meal based on massive amounts of nutrition, not on the quantity, but the quality. So let's see. Any other questions? Any other comments? Any other things that I can? Wow, this has been a 3-hour podcast. When I get going, I lose all track of time. I lose my mind, et cetera. But we're here to help you. The biggest thing I could encourage you, motivate you, is to go to that website right there, the New Health Conversation. It's free. There's nothing there to buy. You can't buy my books there. They're not for sale there. You get to see all the medical proof. What other influences is showing you medical proof of anything? Showing you a website. I mean, they're there to hawk whatever they're promoting. Oh, spend $60 and we'll give you the recipes on how you do this. Why? Why not show you up front? Then you make a decision if you want to buy something or not. We don't have to trick you. We don't have to mislead you. Our only job on that website is to make you aware of what's available. And that's why we won't contact you if you go to the website. The only way we can contact you is if you sign up for a free personal consultation. Does that make sense? Or not? So I'm going to conclude this podcast, and I would really appreciate any of you if you would go to the New Health Conversation. That's my TikTok, and like it if you like, or if you don't, it's okay too. You can put whatever comments you want. I'm used to it. But so in closing, like I said, you'll see there the New Health Conversation. You can go there at any moment and see the medical proof. And if you like what you see, scroll to the bottom. It says sign up for a free personal consultation. It is absolutely free. No gimmicks, no tricks, no hidden agendas. And then, and only then, once you convince yourself, you get a full interview with the #1 nutritional researcher, weight loss and physiology research team in the world. Do you know what they say on that interview? They will never recommend any form of traditional diet ever again, whether it's keto, paleo, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, the Cornish diet, the Zone diet, the Atkins diet, Jenny Craig. I mean, I don't have time to list them all. Right in the interview. And you know why he said that? He said, Peter, based on this, we've chased the silver bullet for obesity for 38 years. Not only did we find it, but we have the medical proof to back up everything we saw and observed. And then we got it published in 7 of the biggest medical journals in the world. How ethically could we advise one of our patients or clients to do any form of diet when, what does the evidence show? That on every diet out there, people are losing weight. But 40% of what or up to 40% of what they're losing is their lean muscle mass, which slows down their metabolism, which sets them up for failure. They plateau in the diet, they come off the diet, they gain everything back. Plus the medical improvements in people. And they said in 38 years, we've never seen anything like this. where blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, and obviously weight came down in 30 days. And inflammation, which the medical community said is the underlying cause of every disease out there. And we're not treating, curing, diagnosing, or making any medical claims. All I'm telling you is what's in the medical study. They lowered inflammation for the first time ever in 38 years of research by 25% in 30 days. People's hunger, how much would this excite you? Their hunger came down 41% in 30 days. You all know you go on a diet, and by week 3 or 4, you're so hungry you want to eat your couch. The reverse happened here because, again, it wasn't based on the quantity of food. It was based on the quality. And because the body was satisfied nutritionally, they didn't have those cravings. Most people, actually, they report even after 4 days, a lot of women will say, my God, all my chocolate cravings have gone away. Yeah, because your body's getting what it needs. See, sugars and things like that are like temporary. But let me give you an example. So the human body stores in fat, human body has about 2,000 calories a day in sugar and simple carbs that it uses for energy. But in fat, it stores 100,000 calories, 50 times more. So obviously you want to get into a position where your body is able to burn fat for fuel. And of course, you know, from the food you're eating, obviously getting more fat that you can use, you know, et cetera. But my point is that this is about maximizing your quality of life potential. I know most of you are really excited about the number on the scale going down, but that's the least reason to do it. The most important reason is to maximize your quality of life potential. I mean, wouldn't it be a good thing if you could lower your blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides? Well, what about bringing inflammation down by 25% in 30 days? And how about with no exercise at all? The people in these studies gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise. Now look, if you want to exercise, it's even better. But in the studies, they had to eliminate exercise. Otherwise, it would have been a factor. Otherwise, you said, well, of course they lost weight because it was diet and exercise. No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact, diet and exercise is one of the worst strategies you can employ using regular food to try and lose weight. Why would that be? Because we already told you that our food in this country is nutritionally really insufficient. So now you're asking your body with less fuel to put out more energy. Tax your muscles. It's just logical. It's just scientific. It just makes sense. So again, I really invite you, or turn other people onto it. Anybody can go to that website, or I would encourage, my goal is to do at least 3 of these podcasts a day, normally around 1 Eastern, like mid-afternoon, and then 1 later in the day, like I know it's 6:45 on the East Coast right now. But we got people all over the world watching this podcast now. I got people in Africa and Spain and England and in Japan and South America. I mean, it's crazy. Not really. I love TikTok. It's amazing. I mean, I had done 1,500 lectures all over the world up until COVID. I've been all across the United States, Canada, Mexico, and even I went to China. That was a great experience. Amazing. That all stopped with COVID. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have TikTok. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have social media, but TikTok in particular, you know. And they have very stringent rules about what you can and can't do. So I don't need to, but I'm the source. It's my research. So anyway, I hope you've learned something from this. I hope that I've inspired you to take a different look. Just how about stepping outside the box a little bit? Don't let your skepticism prevent you from changing the rest of your life. Make sense? So anyway, I'm going to end this podcast now. And, so how to do it, Jack? Black jaw. Okay, I'll go over it real quickly. Black jaw, what they did, the researchers, they figured out that any diet formed, you were lowering the amount of food, was lowering the amount of nutrition. It was causing the body to burn our muscles for fat. These researchers, 38 years, 150 studies of the top weight loss diet and physiology in the world. They developed a program where they found they had 40% of the food people consume from this country. The other 60% came from 5 foods from around the world. And what they did, they had people do something called protein pacing. 5 days a week, they had them have these 5 foods from around the world for breakfast. People ate from this food list from the grocery store at lunchtime and dinner. And then they had a fourth meal. It's called protein pacing. But it wasn't just protein. I mean, they had vegetables, and they spread it out over the course of about 12 or 14 hours, 5 days a week. 2 days a week, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store, just these 5 foods around the world that had tremendous amounts of nutrition, not tremendous amount of calories. So here were the results, Blackjaw. Men and women who were not allowed to exercise because the researchers didn't want exercise to be an outlier. I'm not making this up. They lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet the researchers have ever studied in 38 years. In a month, people lost as much weight in 30 days as a year in any diet. They lost no water weight and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And so Blackjaw, because I was almost finished on this podcast, it's now been almost 3 hours and 15 minutes. We provided this free website. I'm going to put it right there under your name right now. You'll see it in just a moment. Okay, hold on. And what you could, yeah, there it is, the New Health Conversation. It's free to go there, Blackjaw. And what's there is the medical proof. Let me show you the website just so you know that I'm not making this up. Here's the website. There's nothing to buy, my books. It's all the medical proof, okay? It's free to go there. And there are video, there's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher and physiologist and weight loss scientist in the world. There's a long interview where he explains to you why they will never recommend traditional diets ever again. After 38 years of research, they developed this new protocol. And it's free to go there. But if you like what you see, Blackjaw, you can then scroll down to the bottom. It's to sign up for a free personal consultation. It's totally free. There's no gimmicks, no tricks. We're not there to sell you or convince you. You can sign up with one of our coaches. To be a coach, they've had to have done the program, and they've been trained by us to answer all your questions. Because Blackjaw, we have people who want to gain weight. We have athletes. We have kids as young as 2 doing this, and people in the 90s. We have, women that are pregnant. I mean, it's a whole host of things. That's why we do the personal evaluation for free. And by the way, the 5 foods that you would buy from, so 40% of what you spend would be at the grocery store. You get a grocery list. But the other 60% come from these 5 foods from around the world. And the fulfillment companies who supplied the food to the researchers. Let me be clear, Blackjaw. The researchers, they don't sell anything. They don't make anything. They're just scientists. They used this combination to create these results that they had never seen. No one's ever seen in 38 years. I mean, honestly, Blackjaw, how excited would you be if you could lose as much weight in 7 days with no exercise as you've ever lost in 2 months? How about losing as much weight in 30 days as in a year with no loss of water and gaining lean muscle mass with no exercise? You can exercise if you want, of course. You'll see all the proof on that medical website. You can sign up for the free consultation with the coaches. Also, the 5 foods that you would be purchasing other than the food from your grocery store, they offer 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. They'll even pay return shipping, okay? So I'm glad that I could do that for you before we closed out today. Okay, Blackjaw? So I really encourage you to go. You'll see I put the website for you, The New Health Conversation. That's the name of my TikTok site. That's my other social media platforms. I started the movement, The New Health Conversation. So my voice is giving out. I'm sorry. Well, I don't know, 3 hours and 15 minutes. I guess that's long enough. So I want to encourage everybody to go to that website, and my voice hopefully will recover by tomorrow, and we can do, I'm going to do at least 3 of these podcasts tomorrow. So everybody, I'm reluctant to say good night because we have people in Australia where it's morning, in Japan, I mean, all over the world. So I'm going to just say, I bid you adieu. That's all I know how to say. So everybody have a wonderful rest of whatever time frame, sun you're following, okay? Bye, everyone.